Every time I have to complain about not being able to see my chat. I just want to see my chat and see the things. You know, I'm about to be inundated with a bunch of, why are you awake at this hour? Why this? Why that? I'm just about to be inundated with all that. I can't ever just be live, and people can't just appreciate the fact that I'm live. It could never be something so simple. It could never be something so easy. It always just had to be this repugnant level of, why treat me like this? Good morning. Oh, dear Lord, they're here. Oh, God, they're all saying good morning. They're wishing me good. My inability to take compliments. You up early? I'm at work. Ha! Joke's on you. I've been up for 4 hours now. That sleep schedule is dead, buddy. And I do mean dead. But at least, you can all see my ultimate team. Look at my team. Oh, I'm so good. I'm so good at the game. I'm so a 95 defense. Who could possibly fucking beat me? Except all the other people who know how to play the game. Except all the people who are better than me in the game. Oh, but it doesn't matter. Because where am I ranked? Where's my ultra super ranking in this game? Oh my God, I must claim rewards. Because the last game I played, I lost. Damn it. I think I got demoted to Heisman now. Oh, I think I did. Let's see. Oh, I've been demoted to Heisman. God. Where am I ranked? Where? Don't tell me. Oh, I'm ranked 271 in the world. In all of the world. Sleep? No. Friendship? Why bother? Family? What is it? All that matters is my ability to be one of the best college football. Oh my God. So what did this Indian do? So listen. Oh, by the way, no matter what, I don't care if we just peer through this in like 1 hour or two. We're going to be fucking going and playing the goddamn Detroit. We're starting the Detroit game today in this stream. Not on YouTube, though, because I hate you people. Yeah. I got to be, yeah. Sleep deprived Leon is an interesting Pokemon. Oh, how dare you. I just pronounced Bakugan. Matter of fact, I'm a Beyblade. I could beat Pegasus. No sweat. No. But now I want to read. I want to read what this guy says, because apparently he's come under fire. He's come under fire from the public domain, and now I must know, what did he do regarding the last video about Nux? Who? You can't be talking about Nux Taku. What did Nux do? While I can't be a friend after some of the recent things that have surfaced, I do feel I did do an overreaction that stemmed from a being emotional on a reaction from the community on Reddit. I have been watching my content the past few weeks. I have realized my channel has slipped into a slop channel. Oh my God. Every channel is a slop. Look at the post under this. Look at the post under this. This is the definition of, look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. I'm not seeing productivity. It's slop. Once you get to the point where you just start thinking to yourself, either privately or publicly, that your content is this high IQ piece of stimuli, you got to realize that eventually it's not. I've made more drama-related content over the last several months than I have fun, engaging, and informative content. That includes producing videos that don't release daily. I need to take more time and release content a couple times a week that stands in quality, not quantity. I don't do this for a job, so honestly, going out of my way to constantly chase trends has done nothing beneficial for me other than alienate my most hardcore fans. I need to take a few days off, reset, and produce better content that isn't the latest trends or internet drama. While that produces a good view count, it's not the kind of content I want to be known for. I'll be back with content that I'm proud of. In regards to past collaborations, all I can do is apologize and promise to do better. So delete it all. So delete the Mr. Beast videos, delete the Game Awards thing, delete the Johnny Somali videos, delete the very disgusting, disappointed Marcus Brownlee video. Delete these. If you truly feel like you need to apologize for all of that, delete it. Delete the Logan Paul Lunchley videos, delete the Internet Archive, delete the Twitch disgusting platform thing, delete the Pokemon leaks. Typhlosion didn't do it. Delete, like, if you truly feel all of this, delete it all. You won't, because there's monetary gain in getting videos that either on a weekly or daily basis get over 100,000 to 200,000 to sometimes, as you can see there, 1 million views. So what it seems to me is that maybe, just maybe, you had an opinion or a take in a video that I can clearly see now is deleted. And you got chewed out, and now it's the, oh, well, regarding the last video nonsense. I want to know what your people say to you. Community on Reddit, bro, I think I found your problem. Next Penguin Z video, Muta situation is crazy. That Sonichu medallion has really caused a downward spiral. Haunted gaming, virus investigations, deep web browsing, gaming content in general is a good way to get back on the right track. It's also slop. It was an arrogance and foolishness to touch that Sonichu medallion. I mean, you have to know deleting the vid is sus as fuck. As you said, you've become a drama channel. People you've covered have done this very thing, and you call them out on it. Seems reasonable that people are doing the same to you. Been a long time fan. Oh God, it's too long. Never mind. Meltdown in progress. Got off Twitter to fall into the cesspool that is Reddit. Honestly, you never should have even made the video in the first place. All you did was put a stain on your reputation and threw someone else under the bus for something so minor as Reddit drama on something from 3 years ago. It was nothing but a petty mess, and honestly, you really should have sat there and thought about what you were saying. Well, I promise you it's not that deep. I mean, it clearly is. It clearly is. Bulan, why did you all caps good? Why did you all caps good? How are haunted gaming and virus investigations slop? What do they do? Like, if we were to comb through the archive history of haunted gaming, what does it do? What does it do? Nothing. What the word slop has become a great way to just demean everybody's content. And the sad reality is 99% of YouTube is slop. And every single person who wants to speak in a way that, oh, my content is not slop, it's refined, their shit is slop too. Guess who else's content is slop? Mine. And I have no problem admitting it. I could call it entertaining slop, something that'll just ease the mind for about 5 to 15 minutes, 20 if I'm really hard. I have no problem admitting that it's a guy talking into a microphone. That's what we're both doing. He does the same thing. He talks into a microphone about something. Is Sony slop, Leon? How dare you? The Sony never does anything wrong. Sony released a great idea to start having themes. Do you see the PlayStation 2-esque logoing up at the top of my PlayStation home screen? Oh my God. Did you see all of these things? Doesn't it all make up for the waste of time Sony has been giving us over these past number of fucking days and weeks and years? Look at all these great things. We've done it. We've done it so effortlessly. It's amazing. Look at all these great games. Oh God, this is happening. This makes up for all of it. All of the really shitty decisions that Sony has put out over the past year and a half. I don't remember Far Cry 4 being on the fucking PlayStation 3, but okay. But it all just makes up for it. Wait a minute. The PlayStation 3. You see me clicking on the PlayStation 3 section. Why the fuck is The Last of Us here? Why the fuck is Black Ops 3 here? I don't remember Far Cry Primal being on the fucking PlayStation 3. I could be wrong. I could so fucking be wrong about everything I'm seeing. Now this is more accurate. This is happening. Because those are PS3 games. I don't even remember that. But oh, my memory is so bad. It's so great though. Because guess what? We have Epic Mickey refurbish the demo. Oh my God, we have PlayStation 5 Pro enhanced games. Oh my God, it's games you've all seen before. But now you have to squint damn near to be blind fucking eye levels to see it. Marvel's Rivals. Oh God, this releases in 2 days. Does the PS4 have Bloodborne? I don't know. Let's see. Oh, I clicked the PS3. My bad. I'm spreading misinformation. Is it here? Yes, it's the complete edition. God. Sony now is slop, I won't lie to you. Because they're not producing anything like on a consistent basis. And it's not to say games could be fucking pumped out on a weekly basis. It's to say you really don't know or have enough. We know you're excited for the Funko game, Leon. Quit lying. Now I have to fucking type in Google and my search history is gonna have Funko game in it. The hell is the I spelled Funko-gasm. Ew, this looks terrible. Ew, this looks like it'll give me a headache. Yuck. 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 Do you hear me? Yuck. But what were we doing? Oh, we were slop. Like, bro, no more Google Chrome. Wonderful. He's a guy who talked about tech and talked about hacking and talked about computer issues and talked about viruses. And on occasion, he talked about something dumb. On occasion, he talked about something meaningless, like the evil case of P. Diddy. That's why I'm saying if he truly feels that way about how his channel's become slop over the past few months, delete the few months worth of slop. For example, how did you go from haunted discourse to Mama Max decided to come crawling back? TikTokers committing bank fraud. Sony just killed Concord. Nikocado. Like, what are we doing here? If you truly feel that way, punch it. Just end it. And you know, I would like to see this video, but he cowardly deleted it. And now it makes me think whatever he said doesn't really match up to his community post. Because you ever notice how people will say something in a video, but then once they get chewed the fuck out, they put out some girthy statement? Isn't this the same guy who regularly would clown on people in hilarious fashion, and then for some fucking reason got mad because motherfuckers were making Indian shit jokes on Twitter, and that was his gimmick for getting out? But now I just wish he wouldn't delete the video so that I could judge it for myself. It's not like anybody could have possibly downloaded it and then just re-uploaded it so that they could watch it later. No, that's not possible. That's not possible. It's not possible at all. Not at all possible. No. Who could have done such a thing? Who could have done such a bad thing? That bad thing. I started the vid but didn't finish. Oh, well, you know, good for you.
Hello, guys and gals. Me, Mutahar, and today we got a pretty serious video to make. Throughout my career, you know,
this is slop. And why is that keyboard in the background on?
People make mistakes, and there's accountability to be taken, and I am not shy to taking real accountability to actual mistakes. Now, the thing about this is, obviously, I can upload these kind of videos on the secondary platforms, but I really think, for full effect, I should always upload to the main platform and really talk to you guys in a full, level-headed way. Now, I have a Reddit board known as Some Ordinary Gamers, and you can post whatever memes and things you want all day, every day. But one of the clips that I saw, one of the things shared was a resurfaced video of Oompaville, Some Ordinary Gamers, and Nuxtaku watching Loli together on a Discord call.
Excuse me? Is this who we're doing on Discord? Good buddy?
So when I see this kind of stuff, it blows me, and it obviously flashbangs anybody, and I want to definitely have a talk about it and really explain to you exactly what this is, what it's about, give you my side of the perspective, and again, take accountability where accountability needs to be fucking taken. Now, I've got a pretty hardcore stance against things like Wally, and obviously I don't...
Oh my God, I'm playing a fucking sick man. He has all the things. He has the things. He has the things I have. It's a battle.
Want to be contributing to watching that kind of content or normalizing it in any fashion. So in this situation, obviously, I looked at some of these clips and I want to explain what's happening and completely condemn it too, because as somebody that is 1,000% against this kind of stuff, I don't want to be, again, normalizing it in any capacity. Now, for people who don't know, Oompaville and Nuxtaku were former members of the Some Ordinary podcast, which obviously ended 3 to 4 months ago. Now, I get to talk about that a little bit after I discuss all of this, because there's some lore about it that I can finally really discuss, and it should shed to light exactly what really happened with the podcast, because it's pretty independent of this. But to go back to it, Nuxtaku is a former collaborator, a former friend of mine, and I mean really a former friend of mine, because some of the stuff that I've seen over here is disgusting enough that I really can't continue a friendship, and I really can't, like, again, excuse some of my behavior watching some of this content as well. So this video that was uploaded with, again, Nuxtaku.
What? Who? Why? Why are these our opening moments in time? Why is that the first thing? Why is he hugging up with Epstein? And why is Epstein looking at us like that? I'm pressing all my buttons when I just tried to press the fucking react to give you the full screen. Why? Why is he staring at me into the abyss? It doesn't need to be happening. Just don't do it. Just don't. Just peer away.
Nuxtaku as Jeffrey Epstein, and me as, I assume, Delane Maxwell over here. Mutahar nuked, right? So obviously in this clip, or in this video, there is a pretty big clip of me, Nuxtaku, and Quite, and Caleb basically watching and reviewing hentai together. Now, while all 3 of us were present in this video, this is a section for me, right? Now, obviously, these videos, according to how this video was played, was uploaded on YouTube. Now, for full context, when it comes to recording stuff, this was 3 years ago, so I don't remember everything done onto it. I don't think anybody can remember something they did 3 years ago, especially when you make videos nearly every day. But in this collaboration, Nux doesn't really give any preparation material. We kind of just jump in and record stuff and then send it over to his editors or himself over Discord. But in this situation, he showed us a channel known as NT Boy, right? Which, again, this is a video known as Hentai Thick Girl, very unknown, very small viewership. But as you can see right over here, right, this is all uploaded to YouTube.
And when you look at the upload date for this, August 2020, around Nux's actual video, which would have been uploaded like January of, or the end of January of like 2021, the channel pretty much remained dormant over here, but it was pretty much an unknown channel that slipped under YouTube's moderation. I don't even think that channel exists anymore, because with the amount of attention raised through Nux's initial video, it probably is completely removed and has actually been banned off of the platform.
And again, when I was working with Nux, a lot of the things we did talk about was being anti-Lily in that situation. And Nux very much made clear to me that he was anti this stuff as well too, and he still maintains it to this day. But the kind of stuff that he showed us was anime knee summer.
Now, inside the video, inside Nux's presentation, it kind of came off as like just a cursed little hentai, and the reality of it is I never really watched his collaboration, but if you take the name that Knee Summer had and put it into my anime list, which I realistically should have done at the time, you can see the synopsis is Yuta Yamayuchi is a average high school student, right? So right there, I'm not going to play the whole semantics, oh, is this really a lolly game? Like, I don't even care if somebody's like 18 or on the cusp of like turning 19. At the end of the day, high school can very much involve a minor. And when you scroll down and go to the information, it is a OVA by a studio known as Rabbit Gate with no licensors, but the genre is in fact hentai. So again, ladies and gentlemen, if it's hentai and it involves high school people, it does in fact.
It's porn. It's porn. It's hentai. It's porn. It's porn. I don't know why did we stop normalizing watching adults fuck each other? Why did we start the cartoon thing? It should.
I fall under the lowly banner, and that is never okay in any capacity. Now, obviously, these videos existing on YouTube kind of, again, led us to some credence that maybe it wasn't, this like borderline illicit material. But again, these were also smaller YouTube channels, so chances are they probably weren't swept up under the YouTube moderation, which is something that also should have really.
Boy, I really can't take your heartfelt stance on this serious, because you have it caked under some fucking, what is this, Borderlands? Wow, you're so serious in your details that you barely wanted to be on camera. You just wanted to fucking show me your cool expert gameplay, buddy. Congratulations. Field goal whiffed.
Been considered from my end. It should have been something that I never watched in the first place. I should have never, condoned. And honestly, it's pretty shitty to even contribute to somewhat normalizing this material. When there's a lot of large creators that work with a person, you tend to have this level of like authority brought into it. And there is obviously a blind spot when this is somebody that you consider to be a friend at the time.
Why are you live at 7 a.m.? I'm sorry. Do you freaks do this shit to that fucking Irishman who's live every day at like 5 in the morning? No? Then why am I getting treated like this? How come when I go live whenever I want, it's an issue, but when everyone else goes live at random points throughout the day, it's, oh my God, I was waiting for you to go live. Where's my respect and admiration? Hello? Who's the Irishman? What is his name? Chud? Is he not Irish?
And obviously, when you work with that person and you see other large creators that you're also friends with work with that person, it just, again, swells up that blind spot that you make. But again, no real excuses over there. You shouldn't really have a blind spot in the first place. And again, it's not only me being a poor judge of character, but I should have absolutely have spotted this years ago. So for that, I absolutely own up to my fuck up here. But again, I don't think this is literally us gooning together watching Loli in this manner. This is a collaboration where it happens pretty much on the fly. And
Chud is South African. I could believe it.
It's not, representative of the kind of shit that I consume on a daily basis or anything of that nature. Like, I would never willingly and honestly, like, watch something like this, out of nowhere. This is just insane. And I wanted to really bring this up and bring this into the context of what this clip was and why we had watched this kind of stuff. And any jokes that I make in these situations, really any jokes that anybody makes in collaborations like this, is usually because everyone's just playing into the high shock factor of something like this. Does that excuse any behavior? Absolutely not.
And he showed us something very weird, and I remember getting somewhat upset about it. Not liking it that much. It was me, him, and Quite.
I'm pretty sure he's British. Oh, who cares? Who cares about his ethnicity? What matters is he the One Piece? Is he? No.
Fuck. I want to see something involving a dog too. But
Exactly.
I must be behind on the popular stream dudes. I don't know. I don't watch him because he streams at 5 in the morning. I have sleep to do because despite the fucking joke, motherfucker, I have sleep to catch up on.
Probably 900-year-old cum vamp for far too long.
These are the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse we're looking at right now. This is like some mythological.
They've been around since long before civilization.
Exactly. Wait, show
Yeah.
what in those videos?
This is the 5 rules of the Onami household.
Okay.
These are the little sisters, by the way.
Okay, this is a hentai?
First rule, hug your little sister every day.
Okay, it's fine. Okay, it's just hug her for at least 10 seconds. There's nothing wrong with a hug. Yeah, it's fine.
No, the third rule isn't any weirder, so you don't have to worry.
Oh. But in this situation, I just wanted to provide you the context of all of this, right? This wasn't us sitting together watching Loli, just on like the off time. This is a collab.
I'm gonna actually like take the skin on my leg, peel it, and then eat it. Like, why did I just whiff that so bad?
For one of Nux's main channel videos, and at the time, really nobody thought about it. But we should have.
So a lot of these big creators, you can start to see like really big names. Obviously, Project Melody, Critical, MXR Plays.
What the hell is going on? I mean, we're just up. You're so serious with football gameplay, and what are you talking about? What are you talking about? I'm one of the best. I'm one of the best in the world. I have to be one of the most serious people.
I don't know if that's actually Iron Mouse, but yeah, you can see plenty of creators that Nux has worked with, and for a while there's been plenty of collaborations where like big creators jump on, they get shown.
Somebody just commented under one of my YouTube videos, America voted for Trump because he's the best person for the job. And
like crazy shit, crazy hentai, or sometimes participate in like, game shows, so to speak. And that's really the extent of it. Nux is a pretty big collaborator in that space. And realistically, I kind of just walked around expecting him on good faith when he said that, he's pretty anti-loli. And obviously,
you're a fool. You're a fool. You trust people just because they said it? How serendipitous, how waste of a time it is for you to do such a thing. Never do that. I assume every YouTuber I know smokes crack. Why? Just because I'm a horrible judge of character, and I drastically don't like communicating with people because I'm bad at communication. I'm bad at understanding compliments versus insults, and I'm drastically just a boring individual.
obviously wouldn't have shown us anything that would be very adjacent to it. And obviously with a lot of these larger creators also collaborating with him, I'm sorry to say, it really did blindside me. There was a bias, call it, friendship bias, call it, there was other creators working on it, but really it was something that I was putting up a blind spot to. And
Did I see that Virginia Tech won against UVA? Why would I care about two pointless schools? The fuck? Like, what? Oh my God, I just threw a fucking pick. I'm whiffing it. I'm whiffing it.
I'm not using that as an excuse. I really shouldn't have done that collaboration, and I really shouldn't have watched that content, and in any way contributed to normalizing it. I 100% obviously condemn Wally, and I 100% condemn my actions in that situation. But again, one of the reasons why I do really want to address this is I don't like obviously reading the facts that I am some level of a pedo or a defender of this or anything.
Wow, it's almost like everyone else who gets put in this scenario. I mean, at least in your case, you didn't. I could give was it Mutahar the leeway because at least he didn't fucking download this shit to jerk to it later because, and I quote from Vosh, I'm a size queen.
Made plenty of videos crapping on individuals and burning a bridge with creators who I don't necessarily agree with. If I have ever at any point normalized their actions, people like Mama Max, where I did stick up for, amongst plenty of other creators. But I think obviously if really bad information comes out and new information comes out, you have to publicly correct it. You have to publicly explain, updates to a situation. I could swipe this stuff under the rug, but I choose to upload it on the main channel because I think that's really where taking accountability is at. I don't want to pretend like I'm just burying my head in the sand. This was
Wow. That's great that you did that and then deleted it.
a wrong thing for me.
I thought you watched college football. I do. Not shitty schools. I watch good schools like Georgia and Georgia Tech, Colorado, Roll Tide.
To do, and 100%
That's your trash
I own up to.
that you watch on cable network.
Completely. So one of the things that I don't agree with is a lot of the over-sexualization in the thumbnails, right? So there were actually collections of thumbnails collected in these videos where things were pretty NSFW, all right? Or at least they were highly sexualized, but even that isn't as bad as one of the examples that I want to show you. Now, if you're looking at this video called Cursed Speedrun Fails, this was uploaded 3 years ago, and if you're looking at the thumbnail, it is XQC screaming at some video game with Nux's VTuber in the corner and going, what the fuck? Now, the thing is, the problem with this situation is the thumbnail that came before is absolutely filthy. So this one video where, again, the thumbnail is different, XQC is still very much in the corner. You can see a speedrunning timer. You can see Nux's character is avatar right here on the right side, but the middle that I'm blurring especially involves a dog bending over and inserting themselves into what appears to be a female character. So obviously this has nothing to do with the actual content, it's just a hypersexualized thumbnail.
Now, even with a thumbnail like that, it had nothing to do with anything hypersexualized, so I don't know why we had to insert zoophilia into like a speedrunning thumbnail.
Because it's easy to fucking clickbait the fuck out of people with something sensational. I thought you knew this. Aren't you a YouTuber? I thought you knew how to work the fuck touchdown. I thought you knew how to work the algorithm, buddy, to fucking cater to your whims and all this. Sling TV, you're a terrorist.
To me, it makes no sense, but obviously, looking through a larger collection of these thumbnails that were uploaded on numerous other channels covering this topic, yeah, it really is a pattern that back in the day, and Nux even touched upon this, that, years ago, that this was something they did, whether it be for some form of clickbait or, capture, or something that was normalized in the anime community. Any form of zoophilia, any form of, hentai like this, or hypersexualization, or, if you even insert, like, loli into this thumbnail, for instance, that's not okay. And obviously, these are things that, if you slightly change in the background, it's going to rub people the wrong way. You should really just be upfront and honest. And honestly, you should never even have done this in the first place. But yeah, this is one of those things that kind of like obviously was brought up, and it's one thing that I wanted to address as one of the principal reasons as to why this isn't okay. But I think an even bigger reason is one of these situations regarding another creator known as Bungo Taiga, which is a creator that also had their entire YouTube channel pretty much terminated for nudity and sexual content policy. Now, to preface, also going forward into this video, I don't know much more about Bungo Taiga other than what I'm about to read here for you, and again, just covering this one specific case. So I don't know what level of degeneracy, if anything, this person also falls into, so don't consider anything that I'm saying as a co-signing of this individual. I'm looking at a very hyper-specific event in this point in time. I just want to make that readily apparent. So to go over a bit of their controversy, in summer 2022, Taiga was accused of grooming. They made a tweet longer where they reviewed the allegations and called them false. Later, an updated Google Doc was created that had evidence that not only were these allegations fake, they were deliberately created by ex-moderators and spread by a stalker of Taiga. So again, this is the Google Doc in question. Now again, I have no idea about this controversy whatsoever. I'm only bringing this up because it was actually a big point of contention for someone like Nux. So even the actual person, Taiga Holic, actually ended up making like a 57-minute like piece where they kind of went over this and really were just grilling Nux for not really correcting the record. The record had to be corrected because in this situation, Nux literally made a video where he was showcasing controversies to a popular creator known as Penguin Zero. Now inside this, he actually goes out and says, hey all, I edited out the Bungo Taiga segment of this video. Although I say in the video itself a disclaimer that I do not know the full story and do not take what I say too seriously, I would rather not be a cause for possible misinformation floating around now that new information was revealed. I'm still in the dark on a lot of details as I heard both sides of this event and don't know what to think. I'm sorry if I caused any undue harm. So I personally apologize to Taiga for their side and they discussed my plan going forward. If the truth comes out, be it guilty or innocent, but I intend to set the record straight in the future when I understand the situation. So it's wild as fuck that we're covering pretty serious stories like this, but we don't have the entire story, or at least enough to make a video. That is...
It's kind of like being a YouTuber. Ones that don't cover in full detail the story. Or even worse, they do, but then they skew it to benefit themselves or to make themselves look good or to get themselves out of controversy or to just fucking sweep for a motherfucker because clearly that's what people like to do with their friends or their former friends or all this other shit.
Basically how you bring on actual misinformation. So in this story, Taiga did not appear to be too happy with this entire situation. They actually talked about it again in that VOD I brought up, Nuxtaku Can't Stop Lying.
You think I deplatformed him? People are blaming me for deplatforming him. He got banned for sexual content. But you're blaming me for deplatforming him? Destroyed his life? You think I destroyed his life when the video where I talked about apologizing for it has more views than the video where I originally mentioned it, like as a throwaway sentence? Over false allegations? I didn't make any allegations. I said what someone else said, and I was wrong to do that. But like, there are so many comments like this everywhere.
I don't particularly think that was ever a great response in the situation. Like, yes, just because you regurgitated what somebody else said, when it comes to something this serious, it probably should have been something that you were 100% on the money for. It's a pretty massive fuck up, and it's not a fuck up that you can just, put in a pinned comment or a, side channel that people, may or may not see. At the end of the day, when it involves something incredibly serious, like, incredibly serious, like sexual assault stuff, you should 100% correct the record and make an actual real, it doesn't have to be like you slapping yourself in the face in front of it. It just really has to be a sincere apology that, again, you post on a main channel. The reason I'm doing this video, for instance, on a main channel is because I really do want to set the record straight. I really don't have anything to hide, and to be honest with you, when it comes to a situation like this, it's best that I set the record straight with my community. I'm not ashamed of involving people that wouldn't know about it. I don't really want to hide things under a rug because I have nothing to hide. At the end of the day, that to me is more shady. I call people out for really bad behavior, and I think this is probably some of the worst that I've seen, especially when it comes to reporting on something that...
What do you mean probably the worst that you've seen? Haven't you talked about rape? Haven't you talked about important shit? Whether or not your reputation as a YouTuber got damaged because, dear Lord, the people found out that you watched Lolly 3 years ago as a meme in a YouTube video? What's our metric here? I don't know what this is about. What's his issue? Who's mad at this? Who is pining for this motherfucker to speak on this?
You probably never should have in the first place, especially when it would have cost somebody, a lot of issues down the road, right?
Even the comment section over here isn't entirely happy about the situation because obviously they say if you know how the internet works, then you'll know why that little clip can end a career of somebody. You said it, people are calling other people stuff, but it never gets to somewhere because they don't have to reach to. But if some idiot with almost 800k subs, it doesn't matter if a million people see it. At least 1/8 of them are going to clip it and repost it, which is really true. If you make a serious fuck up like that, I think not only is removing the video a big problem, but you really got to go onto your main channel and address these situations. If you make a fuck up, especially one where you inadvertently end up slandering somebody, you got to cover for that. And the reason I also bring this situation up is I don't condone any situation where people people are this mishandling with the truth, right? It's never good in my opinion, and I cannot ever work with somebody or, again, be friendly with somebody who has made a mistake like this, because ultimately it's fine to make mistakes, but to really just let it fester for this long without actually making right on it, because again, if you ignore something on the internet long enough, there's a good chance that it'll go away, right? If I ignored this whole situation with my fuck up, it would probably have gone away, but that would be very hypocritical of me to do, and that's not something I want to contribute to, at least on my time on the internet. I also feel that
Okay, but is this a standard that you've had forever? Has there ever been a situation where you just completely ignored something and hoped it went away? I could easily point to the poop shit and how a bunch of motherfuckers got on your ass about that, and you just, deleted your Twitter. He's acting like he got caught with Vosh's stash, which is weird because this ain't as deep. I'm still confused on what's the issue here. Is he mad a bunch of people tied him to something that really isn't that deep? Well, boo-hoo, you could just check notes, ignore it, because you know you didn't do anything. I, at current standing, think you didn't do anything. So what is this all to be said about?
For this one person having some exoneration on a channel, where at least if they weren't guilty of really heinous crimes, at least they get their word out, which at least happened over here. So now I want to move on to something related to our podcast. Now, at the time when we were looking at this whole situation, one of the things that conveniently also occurred along the time of the Some Ordinary podcast ending was the Shadman leaks coming out to the entire world. A lot of creators back in 2016 would contact and discuss things with Shadman, right? Now, Shadman is a pretty infamous creator that I have very much condemned. This is somebody that has drawn actual lolicon material of real individuals, real children, one of those children being Keemstar's kid, and has basically been an open degenerate in the community. Now, the thing is, a lot of creators ended up being friendly with the guy. A lot of people contacted them, and one of them ended up being Nux Taku, who Nux had at the time said, hey, probably this guy, right? A bit too middle school. When Shadman is saying a bit too middle school, I want to collab. LMAO, no, but your heart's in the right place. Understandable, have a nice day. Now, when I asked Nux about this, obviously, in a call, he pretty much told me that this was going to be an interview where he was going to troll and, grill Shadman. Now, obviously, it didn't happen, so I can't confirm or deny if this was actually going to be the truth. But the thing about it is obviously, as this was happening, this was on the consideration of the podcast ending. So I was on somebody's channel known as Chud Logic, who actually talked about the situation. I actually ended up going onto his channel and saying something that I probably shouldn't have, because the situation regarding the podcast was very fluid. And I'll explain that in a bit, but I want you to hear this clip so I can better explain it and also acknowledge a fuck up I made. That's never okay.
Okay. Are you going to keep on the podcast?
No, we would cancel the podcast. This is not happening. The podcast is done.
This is hard because obviously, people want
podcast is done, yeah. Podcast is
But look, it's that fucking guy you fuck. I know you watch gaming, who streams literally at this time, but you don't complain about that. No, you just gobble that shit up. You know why? I figured it out. You hate black people.
Oh, no.
You despise the black race for being on time.
Wait, what?
Yeah, the podcast is over. We are not filming the last episode. It's over.
Are you serious?
Yeah, we're not doing the podcast anymore. It's done.
Why?
We're supposed to film on Tuesday. Well, there's a couple reasons for it. A lot of that was obviously some of the chat stuff too, because we were kind of sitting there like, me and Caleb, we were just like, it's weird. The other thing was we just want to redo things maybe like 2 months down the road or something. So this is a pretty big point and one that I can finally really discuss. And obviously, if you listen to that, it kind of sounds like I'm snaking him. I give him an answer where it says, there's a lot of reasons, but a lot of it is the Shadman stuff.
I mean, you could have just fucking let the clip play out so that I could hear it in full instead of interjecting your voice.
Which at the time, as this was kind of breaking down, everyone in the community was going, whoa, you're connecting with this guy, you're talking to him. Yeah, that kind of was one thing that was brought up. But obviously in a call that, I guess I had with Nux personally, this was discussed as like a collaboration effort. There was another huge thing that I wasn't really privy to discuss at the time. Now the podcast ended for, again, us not actually owning any of it. So to give you an idea about how it works, right? The company that I was with at the time, the management company, NanoZebra, they managed my channel and specifically Oompaville's channel. Now if you notice towards the tail end of the podcast, Oompaville really wasn't showing up for a lot of episodes. There was actually a point where it would be like 1 week out of the month he would actually make an appearance. And it wasn't because, all of a sudden there was some falling out between us or anything. It was that there was a behind-the-scenes issue with NanoZebra and how some of the things on the podcast was done. I believe payment wasn't really necessarily brought towards Oompaville, and they had another deal that wasn't really met well. Now, at the time, me, Oompaville, Isaiah, Tom, Brandon were out filming in Texas, and Wendigoon actually brings up, how things are going over at Mana.gg, another talent agency. So me and Caleb kind of get like a little pitch out of it, and we basically want to work with this Mana group because they're going to do a lot more things in the future that would help us with ventures we want going into our channel into 2025 and beyond. So me and Caleb effectively just cut ties with NanoZebra. We fill in our resignations, and we move on to Mana, and this happened around 3 to 4 months ago. So as this happened, the podcast was under management and, again, I believe partial, if not near full ownership of NanoZebra. So at the time it was like, hey, what do we do about this podcast, right? Like, do we fight for rights for it? And obviously, not really, you don't need to. If you're the main talent, the 3 big people, you are the draw for the show. So it really became a situation where me and Caleb said, yeah, fuck it, we'll just make a new show and we'll move it to a new location, hopefully something IRL, obviously, where, it kind of has more of a professional feel and one that we can obviously manage better. The podcast wasn't the perfect managed podcast ever. There was moments where guests would show up literally like last minute, and a lot of those guests actually did come because of Dux's massive collaborative efforts. Some of the guests I brought, some of the guests Caleb brought, but it was not something where we even had a docket for a lot of the shows, right? It was really
literally just we showed up, we yapped. The yapping wasn't exactly structured, and there were some episodes you could probably look at and realize they were pretty fucking phoned in. So at the end of the day, the podcast ended pretty inconveniently timed with this whole Shadman stuff. Now, obviously, we did, or at least I looked into the Nux stuff myself through the Shadman stuff because there wasn't really any collaboration, never really went anywhere. It didn't become the sole focus reason. But yeah, the actual reasons for why this podcast ended were a lot of boring business stuff. We just didn't own it, so it was a lot better for us to make a new podcast, make an entirely new name out of it, and me and Caleb can move that going forward. And obviously, somebody else can come on that is not Nux, but you understand now the real situation. Now, at the time, I couldn't really bring this up because when you're leaving a contract and you're leaving a company and you're going to a new company, you really don't want to disparage somebody, not because it's not the legal thing to do, but also
You could easily just say, hey, we're cutting ties with our fucking employer to start an independent podcast. Congratulations. No one got thrown under the bus in the statement I just said. Like, no one's harmed. No one's thrown under the bus. We all literally just said, fuck it. Let's start our own podcast. Wow. What a big step for Elmo to figure that out so fluidly.
it's just not something you want to do, right? It's just not really professional at all. You don't want to disparage another company. You don't want to go out and make things look worse than they really are. It really was a pretty amicable breakup. We left, we moved to a new company, and underneath that new company, or really under our company, we're going to bring back this podcast with obviously different branding and whatnot. So that's really the fucking boring answer that it took me months to really tell you. And it took me months because now I've completely severed ties with Nano Zebra, and
It took you months to say, hey, we're no longer associated. Our contract is ending, or we're getting out of our contract. I'm not seeing the legal ramifications for saying that.
being with managing
Now, maybe, I guess, NDA could be a part of this. Maybe?
for I want to say 3 months at this point, like officially signed on. So yeah, that's really the answer. Now in the case of Chud Logic, who did in fact take the words that I put out and relayed them, he really felt that I kind of snaked him and gave him misinformation or outright lied to him. And the reality of it is, honestly, the situation was just so fluid at the time that we didn't even know that things like the last episode were going to be filmed, right? And ultimately that last episode did end up getting filmed, so things kind of did end on a regular note. But when it came to Chud, there's definitely an apology that I feel I should give there, right? Like I could argue this and I could keep fighting it, but at the end of the day, I do feel that obviously if what I've said has led to some wronging for another person, then I'm not above an apology. Look, I'm not too big to fail or too egotistical to realize when what I've done can have consequences for other people, and for that I do humbly apologize. And that's really where I want to kind of leave things at. So, sorry, Chud.
Now, one comment that I saw on Reddit that I want to address too, because obviously this is a pretty good reflection of somebody that is very properly critical of me, right? Somebody that is actually hitting me with hard questions. So one user, Nostraclonoa, says, personally, if you're asking me, I think it's weird that you don't look into the background history of your friends and the people you're just perfectly fine platforming. Again, we kind of did a podcast together. Everyone was a sizable creator. I don't really think that it is specifically me platforming, right? This is just 3 larger creators at the time. You allowed Mama Max to run rampant.
It doesn't matter the size. Someone doesn't know who that is. And if you're... Why the fuck is the game breaking? Why am I not able to play a fucking game? And if you're at the point where it doesn't matter who's big and who's small, somebody doesn't know who these people are. I didn't know who the fuck Oopaville was until last month. And if Oopaville is some like serial rapist, yeah, I would like to know. Thankfully he's not, but that would be something that would need to be brought up.
I wasn't the only large creator that worked with Mama Max or collaborated or, at some point patted him on the back. The reality of it is there was plenty of creators. I was just one of the guys that came out and really absolutely threw him through the ringer, as I'm doing with Nux with this condemnation, and again, an explanation as to my side of the situation. The reality of it is I don't have to come out and make these videos, but I choose to because I believe being accountable is important. And I'd be a total hypocrite because I call other people out on crazy shit. And if I'm willing to completely sweep things under the rug and pretend like things don't exist or show you actual things, then I am a pretty big fucking hypocrite on my own. So you blindly believe the allegations against Magnetar, which I apologize for, especially. You blindly believe the Night Dogs was a creep, and you blindly let a guy like Nux Taku openly discuss and show freak shit in his thumbnails. Again, I don't control another person and their YouTube account, so...
Sir, that's not the point. They're bringing up how you just blindly went along with shit, and you're a grown man. You're not like 13-year-old trying to make it big doing random talking and gameplay. Don't deviate.
So I don't know what I can do with their thumbnails, but again, it's something that I do condemn, especially when these thumbnails are slightly changed. Again, I don't think they should have ever been used in the first place, and I don't want to work with somebody that believed these thumbnails were a good choice in the first place. You actively don't look into the folks you trust, and you just blindly allow them to say whatever without having critical thought about a single bit of it. So again, I don't really watch a lot of content creators that I collaborate with, and nobody really does, okay?
No.
Like at the end of the day, when I came to Nux's channel, here I'm signed on with my actual YouTube account, and if it's one thing that you'll see, usually under videos there'll be like a red bar. I don't have a red bar under basically any of these videos. I think the only video I have an actual red bar in this is probably I showed YouTubers the most cultured clips, which I actually browsed through just for the sake of, again, this video. So yeah, Nux is somebody that I did a podcast with, but it's not that I watched any of this content beforehand, right? Again, this was some...
So you're admitting to what is being discussed about you by someone in your Reddit, that you don't do any form of background checking to see who it is you're about to be collaborating with for either a video or a podcast. Don't throw that under the rug.
Somebody that was very popular in a community of people beyond just anime and VTubing, and it led some credibility. And again, the only reason I'm making this video now is to take accountability and to really, again, condemn the behavior that this person actually exhibited. Again, that's...
Yes, after it's been brought up numerous times that this dude is probably somebody logistically you wouldn't hang around based off of the content you made condemning other people, which again backs the point being made in the Reddit post.
Really the reality of it. Even if you look at other friends of mine like Oompaville, you can see literally I watch the content that I'm interested in, right? Like Mr. Beast response, him saying he's retiring, Fuzi crash outs, a sad AI situation, Smart Schoolboy 9. These are things that I actually watch, right? Guys like Wendigoon, great friend, love Isaiah. But I think the only video out of his that I've watched is probably the disturbing and controversial video game iceberg, and more specifically, Faith 3D. Isaiah is more a video gaming YouTuber for me, especially when he covers things like this. And this goes for a lot of my favorite YouTube friends, okay?
Also, stop
What
hiring
happened?
black people to make Mexican food. Would you trust a white person to make you Chinese food? Also, stop hiring black people to make Mexican food. Would you trust a white person to make you Chinese food?
Why did Chris get a fucking membership?
Also, stop hiring black people to make Mexican food. Would you trust a white person to make you Chinese food?
Is it done?
Also, stop hiring black people to make Mexican food. Would you trust a white person to make you Chinese food?
It's not done. I think there's one more.
Also, stop hiring black people to make Mexican food. Would you trust a white person to make you Chinese food? Also, stop hiring black people to make Mexican food. Would you trust a white person to make you Chinese food?
Now it should be done. First of all, Oni, thanks for the 5 gifted. Second of all, TJ, I'm awake early in the morning. What was the other one? There was a third thing. What happened? Oh, Mutahar apparently feels guilt by association somehow and can't necessarily grasp that even though he's correcting his record somewhat, he's still not really addressing the criticism being brought up, which is, hey, he doesn't really pay attention in doing background checks of who it is he associates with, which is something all of us kind of go into at some point in our lives, that these people just show up and we don't really have like a full detail or a history of who they are and how they operate. And, it's really not something I could be like, fuck Mutahar for. It's a natural thing that happens to almost everybody when it comes to business, whether big or small. And the correct thing to do is just be like, oh, now that I know, I'm not going to associate it anymore. Did you see his community message? Yep. And so far, the community message versus this video paints a broad picture on why he deleted that and ran like a whore.
Critical, don't watch every single Charlie video out there. In fact, I don't really watch much of YouTubers unless it comes to really, really specific things like speedrunning or, 4-hour-long video game retrospectives. And again, this isn't really a defense. I most definitely should have actually been vetting people. And that's why going into, again, the future of my channel, I definitely want to keep collaborations to a minimum. I can't keep making a mistake like this because, again, if you're going to make mistakes, you got to fucking learn from them. If you actively looked into Nux, you'd spot the weird pattern of shit that follows man, especially with Mama Max. I don't know if it's a bias you have, but if you're going to be critical of others, which I am, expect people to be critical of you when you platform weirdos and don't actually vet them. And I totally understand that criticism, and it's not something I want to actually keep happening in the future, okay? So if you make a video complaining about the fact that you're being criticized here, I won't be surprised if you snip half of this post and then act like we're all stupid, which...
Well, he didn't do that, but he did dip. He did delete the video, so, yeah. Evens are evening for a reasoning.
I literally will not do that, okay? If it's one thing that I don't do ever, right?
I watched this called Ruin Leon. He's this guy called Ruin Leon. He's a good young boy. I mean, no, he's not. He's a flawed 25-year-old who's made various mistakes that have traumatized him based on human interaction. That's why when it comes to like being, that's with that douchey mindset people have of, oh my God, I know all, I see all. You should listen to me because I know and see all of your mistakes. Like, I can't do that. It's like, I've got 25 years on this earth, 25 years where I've fucked up a lot. Now, let's get something straight. I'm no victim. I've greatly offended and hurt people, and I'm ashamed I've done that. I've had to deal with the karma that comes from that. I've been publicly embarrassed because of that. And it's taught me to have better self-control in terms of reactions. Did I randomly go out and start hack-a-slashing people? No. But I think emotionally, I was drastically immature at various points in my life. And now I'm here. Still drastically ignorant and immature, but with a little bit of broader intellect. That way I could navigate communicating with people and discussing how I feel. That way, when people hurt my feelings and I bring it up and they either don't care or hug me, I can have a better reaction than just crying or yelling. So you're human? I mean, technically, but I got some Peruvian in me, and that kind of defeats the point of being here.
For a long time watcher, I'm not gonna fucking snip a post. Okay, I'll respond to the whole thing. There's
Oh, hey. First of all, hi to the first time chat of Panda Boy. But don't get snippy because somebody's going based off of their trauma of dealing with YouTubers and how they react to people.
I literally will not do that. Okay, if it's more
Speaking of food, the fish and chips video has been recorded as of an hour ago. In case anybody was wondering why I was awake, it wasn't to make a cooking video. I was just hungry, and I could have made Eggo waffles like a wuss, or I could have been a true man and made some fish and chips.
one thing that I don't do ever, right? You're a long time watcher. I'm not gonna fucking snip a post. Okay, I'll respond to the whole.
Since we're in December, I think it's been a bad year for content creators. I disagree. If you're basing that off of the moments in time where it became trendy and viral to talk about the select motherfuckers who have fucked up, I guess you could say that. But in terms of everybody else, people will say, no, this was a great year for content and content creation. Yes, you could fixate on Hassan, you could fixate on Nux Taco, you could fixate on Mr. Beast, you could fixate on Andrew Tate and the entirety of Red Pill, or you could watch cooking videos and not care about the rest of this shit. That's why when you motherfuckers find out that I don't know about all these intricate details, or that I do, but I stop caring, you tend to understand that my life isn't indicative of constantly peering this shit out. I gotta fucking enjoy life at some point, and I choose to do it now.
The whole thing. There's genuine criticisms of you that people are making in good faith because they like you and your content. Exactly. And for those people, I'm making a video like this to really, again, address these situations. If you ignore that, that's on you. But it sure is weird that this is the second time now that you don't vet people and blindly vouch for them. Again, Mama Max, the example used before, it wasn't just me vouching for this guy. Everyone in the community really did. Until, of course, shit hit the fan. People
Don't start throwing people under the bus. This is about you. Don't do the, well, everyone did this.
really started looking into this content. And even then, I was one of the large YouTubers that came out.
Not to mention In Praise of Shadows. Again, I completely forgot about that. I didn't remember that until the guy who fucking said, hey, you're raping me if you don't pay me.
And really actually mentioned that, took accountability, in my personal opinion, and owned up to it. Really breaks the immersion you tried.
I enjoy watching your content because your reactions are the best. Are you telling me that when I fucking jumped into my bed and yelled, go the fuck to bed, are you telling me that that was the best reaction you could have ever saw? I am so thrilled.
Make of being a respectable, neutral party. When you actually have vouched for monsters 2 times in the last 3 to 4 years, which again, I do 100% apologize for, and it's something that I have to do better. I have to get rid of a blind spot, I have to get rid of biases. But yeah, when it comes to things like this and people, alleging stuff like watching Loli on the down low, it's not something that I ever do, it's not something that I ever want to do, and it's not something I condone. And for that, I do take accountability into not pushing back and stepping away from the situation. Your community can go harass everyone who doesn't like your opinion, because whether you believe it or not, you've got a hive mind of people who support you blindly, which I shouldn't have, okay? You should be 100% critical of everyone. I'm not an invaluable person. I'm somebody that makes mistakes, as I'm describing in this video. And
yes, you're human. Even throwing your poor dead chair is funny. I still have it, just so you all know. The chair's still here. That chair's got maybe 5 more good throws, and I'm conserving them for beautiful moments.
And I do not ever endorse anybody in my community going out to harass somebody. If you harass somebody, you're not in the Some Ordinary Gamers community in my books. But unless you actually grow from how much you blindly believe people, you'll continue to make the same mistakes every time, which I don't want to. And that's why, again, I'm making these videos. Because I think taking accountability is very important. And obviously, I believe taking accountability.
At this, will you people stop harassing me that I'm streaming at this fucking hour? And can't you just say, wow, Leon, you could have literally did with who's the one motherfucker at the beginning of the stream? You could be like Renison. It'd be like, oh, you're up early. I'm at work. See, he didn't hate. He didn't hate. He just fucking appreciated that I've kept his job secure, because that's what a true American touchdown motherfucker does. He keeps jobs secure, baby.
On the main channel is very important too.
Is you screaming after reading the Colin Kaepernick letter? What are you talking about? I'm not signing hippies. Bro. To piggyback off what I said like 2 minutes ago on not knowing how to fucking take reactions, I am drastically somebody who will never be able to accept compliments because high school and elementary school, because I skipped middle school because I'm a genius, but I look dumb, so people don't believe me, taught me that no one's really nice to you. They just want something from you. I don't know how many times I vividly remember being put on speakerphone while being insulted for my real name. And I just sat there. I was like, why am I on the phone? Why am I here? I don't deserve this. But I took it because I don't know how to properly have human connection. Thank you for going live while I take my morning dump. Leon, is that better? That's perfect. Like, I need more of that. Give me more positive. It oozes upon my wet back.
Where it comes down to.
Not the racial phrase wet back, but my back is sweating.
And again, if people wonder why posts get removed from the Reddit, nobody moderates this Reddit but the Reddit Automod. And if you look very carefully, it says removed by Reddit, which, to be honest with you, No Circle Noah, this wasn't me hiding anything. I'm just going to hit approve on that because this shit absolutely drives me insane. I think we've got to change the Automod settings at some point. Now, obviously, I want to address some...
So I hope you changed them recently.
Other like power round criticism before we end this off. Lol, fuck Muta. Dude's been a hypocrite forever as well. Dude virtue signals over cartoons, but loves watching beheading videos. So I want to also address...
Now, I'm pretty sure that was a form of ISIS slop. Because who is going to enjoy watching beheading videos? If he gets this onside kick, I'm going to self-masturbate. Okay.
This statement as well. Now, on the podcast, I talked about a morbid curiosity that I have with like beheading videos, like cartel stuff on the...
This is white women activity. White women have morbid curiosities for shit like this. Why? Because they have nothing going for themselves except to pay attention to shit like that. Oh my God, he just drilled the fuck out of him. I am to the spot, boy.
The internet. And I feel like I have to explain this a little bit more. My morbid curiosity comes from the fact that for a long time, for years at this point, I've been looking into the Mexican drug war. And if you ever followed like cartel social media, one of the weirdest things about their social media is you actually have like gang bosses, sicarios, like actual hitmen, like real hardened gangsters posting on Instagram, TikTok, posting on really any social media platform, their mansions, their extravagant lifestyles. They've got gold guns, Ferraris. It's really crazy propaganda they use to really house people in. But if you look at Reddit boards like r/narco footage, a lot of these boards where they, catalog the Mexican drug war, you'll find plenty of uses of social media where the cartel uploads straight up beheadings, violence, takedowns as forms of intimidation. So realistically, I don't enjoy or love watching this kind of stuff. If you're gonna watch my...
You have a morbid curiosity, so there's a level of enjoyment in trying to figure out, oh, how is this going on in today's society?
Okay, even if gore's not on the screen, I will throw up even thinking about these situations. So I don't watch these things for fun, but to give you a context about it, when I do come across this stuff in that specific context, it's more of me watching these things as part of my ongoing private investigation and research and morbid curiosity of a drug war happening where cowboys are raking in billions of dollars 2 hours south of the border from like what, Los Angeles? Like literally right across the border of the United States from one of the richest countries in the world. You can have a nation where, again, billion-dollar gangs can effectively run entire portions of Mexico. It's an insane, wild scenario. People talk about crazy, evil...
It seems too long for what it is. Yes, because he has to overly explain why he's getting chewed out for shit that I thought was solved months ago.
Happening on the other side of the world. This is happening literally to the south of the border, and it's insane it's gone on this long. Now, obviously, I'm ending this video off on, again, Nux Taku is somebody that I have considered a friend at one point, but honestly, with a lot of these new things that have sort of come and resurfaced, and people have brought these things up to my attention, it's not something I feel comfortable really even, like, looking at, okay? I don't like lowly stuff, and honestly, in a lot of these clips where, again, Nux, with me involved in these sort of competitions or these sort of, like, collaborations, is not something I'm okay with. It's not something I like being attributed to, and it's something that I 100% condemn. So as far as there being a bridge between me and Nux Taku, it doesn't exist, and it won't ever exist. And honestly, looking at some of these clips again, and some of these thumbnails that have been changed around, and again, some of these other situations involving other VTubers that feel very wronged in these situations regarding Nux Taku, I don't feel comfortable ever associating with this person. And regardless of whatever past or friendship that I've had, whatever that led to a blind spot, I do 100% take accountability for my fuck-ups being part of some of these collaborations, competitions, these game shows, okay? There's plenty of larger creators that have collaborated with Nux, and I'm not going to make a giant spiel and say everyone should be guilty by association. All I'm here for is saying that I am definitely in the wrong for even contributing or watching any of this kind of illegal content. Had I known it at the time, I would have stepped away immediately. But I really, honest to God, didn't. And whether people think that I'm playing dumb or I'm not being 100% truthful, you're never going to win over people that never want to side with you.
I mean, you could win over more people if you kept the video up, but you decided to delete it and start complaining about how you've made slop comments or slop content over the past few months, which you're not really standing by because I don't see you deleting all the slop why do I confusing comments and content? I don't see you deleting the slop content from the past few months. Delete it if you are so sincere about it.
But I just want to get my piece out there. I also want to end this video off by saying that to any of the creators that have made videos on me and covered this whole situation, regardless of whatever thumbnails have been brought up or titles or any of these situations, I want to apologize to people like Chud Logic in this situation because I really do feel like I did wrong you, obviously, with my misspeaking, my misstatements. I shouldn't have even said anything in the first place, and if I've hurt you or your career in this entire process, then I humbly apologize with it, okay? I know that, things...
I don't think Chud's career got hurt by you basically bitching in ways that didn't affect him.
Probably wouldn't, smooth over, but I think an apology is due, and I think you gotta be man enough to apologize, when you have to. Now, when it comes to creators that have made videos on me being critical of me on this subject, I don't want to obviously come across as somebody that was sweeping it, under the rug or pretending to ignore it the entire time. Look, if you make a video on me being critical about me, I am totally okay with that. I have obviously been critical of other people in the past. This is not something that is completely out of my wheelhouse. For the creators that have made videos on me calling me out for it, it is something that, again, I thank you for. Accountability is very important. Policing this community is very important. When people make fuck-ups, you gotta at least be able to address those fuck-ups and own them. And I do definitely own my mistakes on, again, watching any of this LoliCon with Nuxtaku. I didn't know it at the time, but honestly, reviewing it and this footage and these clips, yeah, it shouldn't have been something that I was ever a part of in the first place. And I do 100% take full accountability for that, okay?
Well, that's good.
Massive
Put the video back up, though.
fucking hell on my part. But it's not something that I absolutely want to bring up as something that is malicious on my end, okay? There were no crazy gooning sessions in the background. At the end of the day, my relationship with Nuxtaku is pretty much over, and it's not something I ever want to rekindle, especially after reviewing all the other things that have come out of this. At the end of the day,
He caught the ball.
I make fuck-ups. Human beings, we all make fuck-ups. I think choosing how you acknowledge those fuck-ups, that goes a long way. And how I choose to acknowledge this fuck-up is basically, again, by completely being 100% transparent, honest with you, shedding light on things like the podcast shutting down. And ultimately, I want to move past this, leave this behind, and really just sort of end this on a note where at least I get my side of the story out. For the last couple months, this has been something where I feel like I've been taking a whole fuck ton of the pot shots, when really it's Nux that should absolutely be taking a lot of this, shit.
I could have sworn Nux was taking pot shots for this. It seems like, and I might be wild for saying this, he's handled it better than you. Seems like you can't handle the fact that you're getting pot shots also. Which, do you deserve some? Sure. And I think that, I was about to say Discord, that Reddit post was indicative of why you should, because you have a history of not really doing your due diligence with the people you associate with or collaborate with on videos, whether if you know them personally or if there's just a business opportunity. But past that, everything's just pointless. That's the level of criticism I have for you. With Nux, way more intrinsic detail needs to be brought up in terms of criticizing him. But buddy, it seems like you're just mad because you notice that you're getting shit also, and you perceive it as you're getting more shit than the guy who you said outright deserves it. And he does. We're not about to sit here and paper thin this game. He absolutely deserves criticism. But don't sit here and act like, oh, how dare all of you decide to fucking also criticize me. Shame on you. Don't do that to me. I'm me. I'm Mutahar. I'm Mutan.
Full face on. Something that I haven't seen on a secondary channel, main channel, social media platforms is actually taking accountability for some of these pretty serious grievances. But at the end of the day, I don't think this is a simple cancellation. Loli content is not something that I ever endorse, and it's something that I've been 100% against. And unfortunately, having somebody who may have potentially shown me this stuff based on the clips that I've seen, which seems to be a pretty high likelihood, is not something that I should have ever done. Should have been completely 100% against it. Take accountability for it. But ultimately, yeah, I don't ever want to work with Nux going in forward. I think that bridge has long since been burnt. And like I burned a bridge with Mama Max, with his situation, this is not a bridge I want to keep continuing. So I definitely want to take accountability for my stuff. But yeah, this is me, Mutahar, and I'm out. Hello, guys and gals. Me.
That's so wonderful. Put the video back up. Or delete it. Or delete like all the slop. Delete the slop of Australia banning kids. Delete the Mr. Beast videos. Delete the Pokemon Go. The massive GTA 6 scam situation. If you truly feel like your content has been slopped the past few months, delete it. On a side note, this 30th anniversary theme is fucking great. You're right. I have the PlayStation 2 version. And that made up for all the stupid Sony's been doing, like the lack of, single player games, because Lord knows we need the pick. Lord knows we need those. The wasting millions of dollars on Concord just to give people refunds. The $700 console that really has no graphical improvements unless you fucking risk the strength of your eyes just to squint and see it for a pixelated second. It made up for all of it. But now, do any of you remember when the trend for this country was to speculate based off of nothing? Based off of nothing. The, cat. Wait a fucking minute. Wait one goddamn second. Fuck this. I want to. Whoa. NZXT scam? That's the fucking computer company that fucked me over. Wow, dude. Touchdown. Wow, dude. I bought the 30th anniversary PS5 Pro bundle. I have opinions about you. I'm jealous of you. Are the themes temporary? I heard in another chat that they were, but I don't know if they were trolling. My understanding, the only thing that I think might be temporary is like the opening to turning on your PlayStation. I think that's temporary. In terms of the themes, I think those might just stay. And you know what? Now might be a perfect time to look that up, because there are 66 people watching this stream at 6 in the morning. My God, I'm a successful streamer. Now, if only I could migrate you creatures to Twitch for when I finger these robots. I hate Twitch's UI. That's understandable. Nostalgic themes and the cranberries. I'm not worried about cranberries. I want to fucking see if this shit is, where would I be able to PS5 gets PS1, PS2 themes. I'd been sleeping if people in my apartment weren't so gross. That means they're fucking. Sony has finally sort of released themes for the PlayStation 5. That's the thing. They did this with the PS4 too, where you didn't really get the theme until like years later. Like, you didn't get the themes of these old consoles until years later. You could change parts of the PS5 design. This is the only way PlayStation is celebrating the anniversary of the original PS4 themed hardware has also been released. I don't care about PS1 themed hardware. I'm rarely on Twitch when you're streaming, so I miss them all. Oh, don't worry, because once I'm done watching this next video, guess what I'm going to be doing for X amount of hours streaming on Twitch? What am I going to be streaming? The fucking...
Who does? It's so impractical. Hey, we got a $23 Scat Pack! Come on!
The fucking robot game, because we got robots to finger, baby! Is this limited time? This is the only Bloodborne fans were also freaking out about a maintenance being scheduled for the anniversary date. It was unclear that this is a limited PS5 update. So, I mean, they say limited time here, but that's just here. Also, watch him quit. 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 He's gonna quit. He's gonna quit. I swear he's gonna quit. I swear to God he's gonna quit. I swear to God he's gonna quit. Why isn't he quitting? Is he gonna continue playing? He quit. He quit. What a pussy! Clarification, testing out now. It looks like the boot up sequence is always the original PS1 audio, but the audio from everything else in the dashboard can be PS1, PS2, PS3, PS4 based. This is neat. Yes. And thank you for the follow, Anand Chan YT. Limited time. Now I'm gonna cyberbully. I'm gonna keep it forever. I mean, I don't think they're going to keep the fucking opening thing. I think that's going to be the temporary thing. They could fucking keep the rest. They could keep the rest of this shit. They really can. There's no consequence to keeping this. This doesn't break the fucking PS5 to keep this. So who knows? I think because this came out yesterday and today's the 30th anniversary because they specified that. So who knows how tomorrow looks for this? Maybe this ends up being something that breaks apart. I don't know. But yes, robot sex. I will be streaming here. Professor Membrane Meat. But remember the fucking time when we were all worried about cats and dogs being eaten by Haitians and literally there was no evidence of that? Well, there was a guy who fucking went there and interviewed people who, if you watch that whole thing, you'd be annoyed that these people were even given a platform to talk because they had nothing to say of any merit. Now, after 4 years, he's investigated George Floyd's murder. And I was given this via the algorithm. Oh gosh, I mean, the 3-strike system is being applied. But this time, if we hit 3 strikes, we're done on YouTube. We're not done on Twitch. We're immediately going to the robot sex.
What did you see during the George Floyd riots? This is Minneapolis burning as riots exploded across America fighting against police brutality and racial injustice following the death of George Floyd.
You want more of your people to die? You coward!
It was justifiable. Definitely a lot of outrage.
It It was not justifiable.
And he has 26 million people who protested across America with an estimated $1 to $2 billion in property damage and over 10,000 plus arrests nationwide. The death of George Floyd caused complete chaos across America and the world as peaceful protests turned to riots and looting. Was the death of George Floyd a racist white cop murdering an innocent black man?
There's a lot of evidence that supports, in fact, that he did not. And I actually challenge people to come forward with evidence that he did.
Free Chauvin. Free Chauvin.
I want to put a knee on your chest for 13 minutes. Tell me what that would do to you.
Or was this the unfortunate death of a career criminal in police custody with a potentially lethal amount of fentanyl in his blood, an underlying heart condition, and the added stress of resisting arrest and being restrained by the police, leading his heart to fatally go into cardiac
Can Chad pull for strikes? Never.
arrest and dying?
I can't breathe.
Leading to this viral video we all saw without any of the crucial context leading up to it.
They are alleging that he's got 2 milligrams of fentanyl in his mouth when he was first approached by Officer Lane.
What actually happened on May 5th, 2020, leading to George Floyd's death? Why was the body cam footage showing all this context withheld from the public for 2 months? The entire country burned in the name.
I can answer that question easily. They had to do an investigation. And then once they got to a fucking point, they could release that to the public. Which is kind of how that goes when it comes to like moments in time that are big. Smaller shit, the cops would just fucking drop that shit easy. But when it's this big and you got to comb through an investigation, you're really not going to see as much as you would want immediately. And considering how that man's name has essentially been forgotten now, no one really cares to know about it now. And also, I'm willing to bet that a lot of this information has been readily available, and I'm almost deathly certain Candace fucking Owens has done a better job looking into this than this video.
Name of racial injustice and police brutality.
It started with the tragic and senseless murder of George Floyd, and it extended through the week of righteous anger being expressed by community leaders and all people of color.
It's not righteous anger. Burning a Wendy's and breaking into a store is not righteous anger. It's just vandalism.
If you're feeling that sadness, that
And also, strike one.
anger, it's not only understandable, it's right.
America is racist. It is not enough to be not racist. You have to be anti-racist.
I take responsibility.
I take
Fuck, what are you showing me this for?
responsibility. I take responsibility.
And if all the context was available, would America have burned down? Would the public fight to defund and abolish the police? And did these protests lead to meaningful police reform across America?
No, and no again. With that information being readily available to the public, it would not have stopped people from doing what they did. Police reform worked. I ain't gonna say it didn't work. Police reform started in some areas. Then crime got worse in those areas to the point where they added funding back to the police.
I pulled up to Minneapolis 4 years after George Floyd's death to see what the locals thought. What did you see during the George Floyd riots?
Chaos. All that calls for, even the police, even the people that did that. Like, me personally, I wasn't a part of that.
I just seen people destroying everything, just going crazy, stealing things from the store.
Oh, sure. I moved more here after that.
Oh, you left after you saw that?
Yeah.
Was that crazy?
Yes, it was. Sure.
It was justifiable. Definitely a lot of outrage. People knew what was going on for a long time, but this was the first time it had ever been caught on camera that way.
Stupid.
Yeah.
Uncalled for. Go out there and protest, sure, but destroy the city. The Walsh didn't do a thing about it. Thing called national.
Weren't there LA riots based upon a video of cops beating the ever-loving shit out of somebody? This is not the first time that that's been broadcasted in such a way to the public. You're just ill-informed white guy who lives comfortably.
For a couple days.
So I didn't see really much of just like the smoke and the fires and stuff like that in there.
Not quite. I wasn't there. But I saw it on the news and it was heartbreaking. I was born and bred here, so it hurt.
I'm not gonna lie. A lot of these motherfuckers probably were there. It might be better for them to not. It'd be better for them to say that they weren't there.
This is my city, man.
Well, I'm a Metro Transit driver. It was a scary time right after the riots. In fact, I was working on a Nicollet garage. They were worried about all the buses blowing up, so they moved all the buses to the airport garage.
Just tearing up our stores. Nobody didn't have nowhere to go. They had to go far out. Then when it got better, they built out everything back, and then everything started to be good.
No, crime got worse. More killing, lots of killing.
The George Floyd riots led to a positive change here in Minneapolis?
No.
Roughly $500 million in property damage. You think that was justified, what happened after his death?
No, I don't think it's justified, but it's understandable.
So it's justified. You can't two-way speak your way from that. You think it's justified. When you sit there and you say, hey, it wasn't justified, but it's understandable, you're justifying it. You can bring up the hurt and anger of a bunch of people who didn't know about this guy until that day, but you think it's bad.
Crime rate's worse, much worse.
I think it's gotten worse because there's been shootings, down here, downtown. And it used to be a beautiful city 30 years ago,
Do you think the police feel less emboldened to do their job?
Yeah.
Yeah, that shit going up. Murder rate. That shit going up, not down.
It was sad, like the world was crying, They wanted justice, But they should have not teared all their stores up, That was like messed up. We didn't have nowhere to go,
Apparently 60% of those property owners were uninsured. They lost it all.
Yeah, they did lost it all.
$500 million
Who cares about insurance?
damage.
That's crazy.
Who cares about that?
Since then, I think it's gotten a little better. I hope it has.
Last 4 years? No, and stuff, yeah. I feel like it's getting worse, yeah. I think racism's a key topic right now. That's certainly gotten worse. The separation between everybody.
Like segregation here in Minneapolis?
Yeah, self-segregation. Yeah. I don't know about Minneapolis, but in St. Paul, nightlife just never returned. There's still places boarded up.
When I was working with the police, I definitely saw more movement towards a better response, more accountability. We're making steps in the correct direction. It shouldn't have ever happened like that, but now that it did, at the very least, like many tragedies, let's have good come from it.
Sure. What are your thoughts on George Floyd?
Can I say something, man?
Yeah.
What people did to goddamn George Floyd was a goddamn shame, man. They didn't have to put the knee on his motherfuckers.
I think it's really sad what happened to him.
I believe what happened to him should happen to anybody, and that's all I pretty much say.
George Floyd, I can't speak on him, I don't know, but it seemed like a big misunderstanding of all that was going on. There's been a lot of killings, cop killings, and there's a lot of times we can do things to get ourselves killed, so can't speak much on it.
It's all a joke.
It's all a joke?
Yep.
What's that?
He overdosed.
He overdosed on the fentanyl?
Yeah.
The police was accountable for his death?
No. Yes or no, because they mistreated him. In the backseat, restrained him, but they had to put their feet in it. In the backseat of their car, they found pills that he ingested. So obviously he overdosed. I read the toxicology report.
He was a kind, gentle man. I mean, he died over something stupid. He died over a counterfeit $20 bill. Putting your knee on his neck for 9 minutes. He just went too far. Chauvin just went too far. So.
Free Chauvin. Free Chauvin.
Why should he be free?
One thing I'm always love is the free anybody aspect, because you're sitting comfortably outside saying free a man who's sitting in jail because the courts found him guilty of the thing. And it was the same thing with that fucking woman who loudly stated acts of violence and terror against an abortion clinic. And motherfuckers was like, she shouldn't be in jail. She should be free. Who's going to get her out of jail? Oh, they locked her up. She should be pardoned. No, she did the thing.
Free in your opinion?
Because he's not guilty. George Floyd overdosed. Chauvin was using the proper techniques as demonstrated in the book. And I also read the coroner's report, which showed no strangulation.
I heard he put a gun to a pregnant woman and robbed her. And I heard he's a drug dealer. And I heard he had fentanyl in the system. Would that change your perception of him at all?
I don't know that guy. So, I mean, he did that. I mean, it is what it is. I'm not a BLM guy, like, I support it.
And here's the thing. I do not remember. I can honestly say with a straight face. Was all of that day, or was that the Candace Owens, let me pull up all of these references of him in the past so that you could know he's not a good person, which is fine. You want to stop the narrative of, hey, this guy is not a good guy. He's an actual, nuisance to society. I get that. But if all of that didn't happen that day, I don't care. I just don't care. And no, I don't give a fuck that Biden pardoned his son, especially in the history of the pardonings that have happened under the Trump campaign and the potential of him pardoning all those motherfuckers on January 6th. So if that's your smoking gun, I hope anyone who's bitching about that has bitched about every other pardon that's existed throughout all of these fucking presidents, because those aren't the only ones. Those aren't the only ones.
For all this, I think all lives matter. I mean, it's pretty bad that he got killed in the first place. I mean,
I want to amend something, because I was a part of that camp of all lives matter. All lives do not fucking matter. If you rape a kid, go meet the catacombs.
What are your thoughts on the fact that they made a shrine for him that's an autonomous zone near the Cup Noodles where he died? What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's kind of messed up. Is that we're going to find a criminal guy.
How was being a cop here in Minneapolis? Is it tough? Is it easy?
Personally, I would say no, because if you're a good human being, you kind of, the good thing happens.
Sure. After hearing if the public thought the destruction of their city was righteous anger, I headed to the holiest site in Minneapolis, George Floyd Square, a 4-square block memorial to George that stands to this day. That was once a cop-free, autonomous zone, completely blocked off the traffic for over a year and fortified with concrete barricades. What did the residents that lived in this holy zone think of their newly christened patron saint, George Floyd? There is George Floyd. Right now we're walking into the occupied, liberated zone right now. A lot of art out here commemorating his death. Right behind me we have the Hand of Solidarity, Fire All Cops. Now we are approaching the mural. But before I enter George Floyd Square, have you ever wondered about your family history?
No!
I think it makes the transportation a little difficult.
Do you think it's questionable to memorialize a criminal, a guy who robbed a pregnant woman and was a drug dealer? Is that a questionable guy to make the guy? No. Here when things got a little crazy?
Well, when it first started, my birthday was after that. It was kind of scary. But
were a lot of the businesses out here kind of nuked?
Yeah.
Were they getting looted?
Yeah, everything got looted.
You think that's right?
It's messed up.
How's Minneapolis right now?
Quiet, rowdy.
Our prime minister can only suggest someone to a committee to be pardoned. I don't know how it really works down there. Well, the way it works down here is motherfuckers just get out willy-nilly. And then motherfuckers get gone immediately. Them motherfuckers get gone. But in the grand scheme of things, you're going to see a lot of people feigning fake outrage because Biden pardoned his son. And the only legitimate thing anybody could say is that he said he wouldn't do it, which is the only thing that should be brought up in terms of criticism. But because I know motherfuckers are going to go above and beyond and be like, how could he do this? How could he do this? How could he do this? Oh my God, oh God, oh God, oh God. They're going to oversimplify it so that they could say Biden's a corrupt dictator and all this shit. None of them are going to bring up Trump. None of them. None of them. Because if they did, that would lead to them having to, well, I don't know, be a little consistent in their feigned outrage.
On the first of the month, it gets really bad. During the day, it's okay, but at night, it's like really bad.
Okay. There's dangerous characters out there, people lurking.
A bunch of homeless people walk around. They sit in this bus stop.
Right here? They're doing fentanyl in here? This was something that started...
You don't know if they're doing fentanyl. They could be. Or they could just be, you know, dirty homeless people.
Conversation that was much needed. Sure. So wanted to come check it out. So pay my respects, Mr. Floyd. It's a tragedy. Do you think he was a guy that should have been put in this sort of idle position right here? I don't know that anyone would choose that for themselves. He is a martyr. Just kind of powerful right now to be near the spot where he was killed. So just trying to kind of soak it all in. Yeah. So. Do you think there's...
Do you believe the director for the FBI appointed by Trump will actually stay true to his word and release the Epstein list? No. And my second question, does anybody give a fuck about that Epstein list anymore? We got names on it, and conservatives lost their mind until they saw Trump's name attached to that. Did anyone see that audio of Epstein talking about Trump's presidency? The thing about this shit is, like, if you pay attention to these motherfuckers, they feign ignorance and care until something comes up that fucks over what they were planning to fucking bitch about. They feign all of this very cute, elaborate ignorance until something on their side is also involved in that. Then it's, oh, excuse here, excuse there, excuse here.
Systemic racism in America? Yes. Yeah. I think if we look at our Constitution, non-whites being half the people, one of the powers, I think, of someone like Martin Luther King Jr., he didn't want to burn the place down, but he wanted to call America to be what it said it was, and that is a place for all people, where all people are made equal. So now open under new management?
People say they'll release it, never do. My question is, why do we care? Because when names were brought up the first time, I didn't see anyone go to jail.
See what's going on here. Hello. What are your thoughts on the murals and stuff in there? The help business? Is it hurt business? It's okay. Will the city let you move it? Okay. So we have George Floyd right there. Not the most flattering photo, but nonetheless.
Not even gonna lie to you. If I owned a store that motherfuckers painted a mural on, knowing what I know about the fucking way people like to react to shit, I ain't gonna lie, I wouldn't touch it. I just let it stay. Not having nobody coming to my fucking store off that nut shit. No, 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 no. I'm not here no more. I'm not here no more. Not happening, but it's not going down like that. Gotta find me somewhere else. Now, was the executive pardon moral? None of them are moral. Also, I feel as though with everything that gets propped up by specifically the conservatives that don't do research, I feel like there might be a detail there that could possibly bookend how people are fixated on this. Because all I know is Guy got pardoned. If I really sat down and paid attention to this, probably something there that's not being talked about by a lot of people who are just saying, how dare he do this? This is corrupt. And maybe I will. Maybe I won't. Who knows?
My thoughts on George Floyd.
Exactly.
The George Floyd instance was horrible, but like that's been happening for a long, long time, and it's kind of crazy that it took somebody's cell phone to actually take hold to what actually happened. But George Floyd, that's some of the people that's around the hood in a way, though. And I'm not sitting there justifying saying that it's okay, but it's not okay. I really do hope that we move forward. All the murals and stuff like that is a little bit much.
He's almost like Jesus, is what I've noticed.
But it's just
like, almost like similar to the cross, right? Like that mural over there. He looks like Malcolm X or Martin Luther King.
Honestly, though, like that's what's crazy about it, though, because that dude wasn't like that in a way. I'm thinking people are sitting there trying to take it and run with it because they're sitting there feeling like about time somebody said something.
Do you have any thoughts on what went down?
I was working on a route real close by. Coworkers were sending me pictures of white people with Uzis.
Oh.
And I knew those weren't Black Lives Matter people because...
Talking Antifa?
No, we're talking about people who wanted a race riot. They saw an opportunity, kind of just like the...
Are you saying white people came to like fight black people?
We're ready to do that.
I see.
Just like, I don't know if anybody knows, but during the insurrection on January 6th, there was supposed to be a Black Lives Matter protest there. They got word of the insurrectionists coming in and they stood down because they didn't want that to be like that. Same thing.
I see. So the Proud Boys came to confront the...
Because we were inundated with cars and trucks with no license plates.
Interesting.
So a lot of it was other people instigating things and really exploiting racial tension.
Am I playing Fortnite OG this Friday? Probably. Got to get my reps in because I'm a true Fortnite master.
$500 million in property damage in Minneapolis. What are your thoughts on those riots?
I think it was purely stupid. Why would we ruin our own neighborhood if there's injustice in our neighborhood? There's better...
Yeah, I like this guy. He's probably the only one I'll like in this video.
Ways to actually take a different path.
Seeing a frog leap for the 100th time just isn't as interesting as the first. I don't know, man. They got frogs that do backflips.
And then what's crazy, after we burn everything down, you see a whole bunch of people coming around that normally don't.
People coming here as like saviors. And,
that's what I'm saying. And it's just like, yo, where was you at before George Floyd thing happened? Because guess what? There was plenty of George Floyds that happened in the neighborhood.
I know during the time, LGBTQ plus sort of made it a part of their movement as well. I noticed that whenever something bad happens to the black community, it seems like other movements hijack it and make it about them.
You know what? I completely agree with that, though, is because everybody is looking for a little bit of hype. Everybody's looking for a little bit media. It's been around for a while. Now all of a sudden you want to jump in.
Also, I had to deliver a block here, and I hadn't realized, but there was also a lot of indiscriminate tear gas throwing.
Okay, from the police?
From the police, just to liven things up a little bit. And I walked right into a cloud of tear gas.
That's terrible.
My tears were shooting straight forward. I had to go back to the station.
What are your thoughts on the murals and the memorials for George Floyd here?
Well, I'm hoping we can get a bona fide museum. This really needs to be commemorated.
Sir, we don't need a mural for this guy or a museum. What do we need a museum for? An entire museum based around his life? No, because there's going to be things that'll be purposefully left out because people want to create their false sense of history. They want to make sure that the only history people know about is the good and his ending. And that's not enough for a fucking museum. That's not even enough for a wing in a museum.
It needs to be noted what happened, what happens. This narrative is...
Yeah, we know what happened because Google exists.
Not usually told. In fact, the narrative from George Floyd has so blurred and so gotten confiscated by another agenda.
What is that?
What is it? What's the agenda?
It's right into racism and all the things, we don't want black people voting, do we? If you want to say black and you're Republican, you just say Chicago.
Is that real?
Yeah. You want to say gay, you say San Francisco. You want to say Jewish, you say New York.
I was going to ask, do you think some of these people that are abolish the police?
I do not think Jewish when I think New York. I think there are very strong women in New York who I'm very scared of.
Defund the police. Was that a positive change they're pushing towards?
When you're in trouble, who do you call?
911.
911. And who's coming?
911, hopefully. Yeah.
So you need the police. There's certain police officers that is bad, and there's some police officers that's good. But like at the end of the day,
Did you know that there's a museum called the Museum of Failure? Is that any art museum? Because I went to the New Orleans Museum of Art, and I don't have the heart to tell y'all that I was pissed off when I went to, I believe, the second floor, and I saw a complete fucking, yes, you missed the Mutahar section. I saw a complete fucking glued together piece of garbage. Like, it was garbage. It was shit that you would find in a dumpster. It was garbage. It was legitimate fucking garbage. And I had to fucking contest that that is not art. It's garbage. And I literally had two people who worked in the museum give me the long, oh, well, art is many interpretations. I was like, man, this is garbage. This is like, this is trash. It's poo-poo, don't you see? It's trash. It's legitimate trash.
You have to think about it. It's a job, and they have to get home too. They have a family. Because if I go out to
it definitely was modern art.
My job, and I know somebody that's trying to shoot me, I'm going to react in a little bit more hostile. Because if you're mentally thinking that you could shoot, let's just say a family member, a friend, somebody who bumps you wrong, and they already know that when you pull it up, they don't even like you, how would you take that?
Let's say I'm black, I get pulled over on a traffic stop. I don't know what goes through that person's head versus mine. You think there's a big difference culturally in the way police just kind of work?
To be quite honest, if I get pulled over, I do get a little bit nervous in a way. When they ask for certain things, and the way they ask is a little bit more hostile than others. When you come up to the car, hey, let me see your ID, and do extra stuff like, yo, let me see your hands, make sure your hands. But then let's be quite honest, because I was in the car where there was a couple of white people, and then when the cop came up, was like, hey, excuse me, are you okay? What's going on?
Oh, okay.
When you really
do you know that you have a Negro next to you in this car?
Really think about it though, you got to think about the neighborhood that you're in the way though. They're doing their job. It's a job. When you pull up to certain people, you got to be a little bit more cautious. I get it, because at the end of the day, they want to go home.
We lost journalism.
As did the mainstream media or independent journalism, or both.
Both. The answer is both. The credibility of mainstream and independent and alternative media has fucking cripplingly died because a bunch of people chase sensationalism and clicks more than they actually chase credibility. If I peered through the annals of journalism, I could understand why people have lost all respect for any form of media that has to do with information. I do not understand how any of you, will you give the robots a racist or sexist background like in TWD? We're going to find out.
Oh, everyone was happy with someone, not...
It all depends on how I feel. And yes, I'm going to say it to Squanchin because she's going to be concerned. When I played the entirety of The Walking Dead, I gave poor little Clementine the background of being raised by racist parents. Several racist jokes were stated.
Not answering anything. The most detailed conversation we got about childcare.
I know you think of me so perfectly squanching, but I'm into race play.
Trump was childcare is childcare. That's it.
Well, let me ask you a question. You said we're talking about this race stuff, but that race stuff led to $500 million in property damage. Cities across America were burning. Who instigated that?
You know, why is your first reaction as a police officer is to gun down children? Trayvon Martin. Was he 8, 10? Breonna?
What does that have to... Trayvon Martin was not 8, nor he was 10, nor he was not 10. I'm going to make the bold assumption he was 13. I do not think that motherfucker was 10 years old. I hate the fact that I'm about to Google what age was Trayvon Martin. Trayvon was 17 years old. That was not 9 or 10, my good buddy. And George Zimmerman should be in jail.
Not answering anything. The most detailed conversation we got about childcare from Trump was childcare is childcare. Okay. That's it.
Well, let me ask you a question. You said we're talking about this race stuff, but that race stuff led to $500 million in property damage. Cities across America were burning. Who instigated that?
You know, why is your first reaction as a police officer is to gun down children? Trayvon Martin. Was he 8, 10? Breonna?
Oh, 8, 10, 17. 1 year from being classified by Americans as a grown man. Now, does that excuse what happened? No. But let's not play the game. I knew for certain. I didn't know his exact age. I knew for certain he wasn't 8 or 10 years old. Because if he was, that would have been bigger than what it was. That would have been way bigger than what it was if he was actually 8 or 10 years old. Imagine a grown man gunning down a kid. Like a little kid, because 17 is still a kid. That would have been infinitely worse.
Taylor, Missouri. She was asleep. Gunned down. And you know the best they did in that trial?
She wasn't asleep. She was awake. Now, granted, it wasn't full awake. It wasn't like, oh, they were raving. These motherfuckers and their no-knock warrants were the thing that fucked that up.
All was property damage. Police committed property damage. Not even her life was worth it. Don't get me started on property damage.
The whole city was burned down. Like 6 people died in the protests. What went down? Yeah.
I really don't know what the tally was, who went down, but I can tell you
It showed 25 Americans. How are you about to dismiss 25 people dying?
Initial intent was peaceful. Like I said, at the very beginning, you had people instigated. Sure. White people with Uzis are not Minneapolis liberals, okay? They're from somewhere else, driving cars and trucks without license plates. What?
As it relates to George Floyd, though, you mentioned asking the hard questions. So there was meth and fentanyl in his system. The police officers...
Oh my God, I don't want to hear about that.
Why not? You don't think that'd be a contributing cause to his death?
So a cop is a jury, a judge, executioner,
No,
all
I think
that?
that's the point. I think the point is, were there any other factors that led to his death? Heart disease, and then the
Someone
question is...
standing on your neck for 9 or 13 minutes, would I ask you, what had you had for lunch?
Well, that's not my point.
Matter? He was not a Girl Scout. I am so sorry he wasn't the perfect martyr, okay?
But my whole point is that the media, if you're saying it's a class war, and then in this very example, you witnessed the media create a race war almost overnight, and that racist white cop kills black men. There may have been some add layers of nuance to that, right?
There were.
Including, some drugs in the system, some underlying heart conditions.
I want to know the perfect victim on both white and black sides, where the person slaughtered was an angel from God. Show me that.
No, I agree with you, System.
The woman who got gunned down for beating a man in a basketball game. That's one. Any baby who gets abused and beaten to death. That's another set of examples. There are, unfortunately for you, and the argument you wanted to make is that there are perfect victims. You just don't know about that because I guess you just choose to not know that perfect victims do exist.
To some extent, I think
I'm sick of hearing what George Floyd had in his system.
Does
that
contribute to the conversation
be executed?
That's my point.
Tell me, if you had a joint, should you be executed?
I was like, the joint caused me to OD and potentially die, and then we vilify the entire police department across the entire country.
If a joint causes you to overdose and die, that thing was laced.
Into the systemic racism.
No, I want to put a knee on your chest for 13 minutes. Tell me what that would do to you without a thing in your system. Tell me. You think you could do 13 minutes without no oxygen?
Well, I mean, he was screaming, I can't breathe, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Have you ever screamed with no oxygen in your lungs?
No. You've got the narrative just to your
What do you mean, no, but I'm asking the questions. No.
He should have stood up and said, hello, police officer, please don't do that to me. I am not able to breathe properly.
Sure.
Would that have sassified you?
Well, he said he wasn't breathing before using a touch, right?
In a suit and tie and said, please don't do that to me. I think you're violating...
Let this man go and deliver the mail. I ain't gonna lie. You ever wonder why your fucking mail late in Minneapolis? This motherfucker's just doing street interviews. Go do your fuck. job.
My rights.
All I'm saying is, if there's other underlying causes that would have contributed to his death, and we pin it on a broken police system or systemic racism or he's fundamentally broken.
Does it exist, right?
That's not my point.
Well,
of course it does.
Let's look at the victim. Let's blame the victim. You know, police don't have any control over their guns or their. Okay, I gotta go.
No, all right, great conversation. So, yeah, it was clear people differed in their opinion of what exactly happened to George Floyd, even 4 years later. But with the mainstream media seemingly in coordination overnight, labeling George Floyd's death a cold-blooded murder by the evil racist Derek Chauvin, while the other 3 officers were just as guilty for standing by when it happened.
Leon is the perfect victim for not having enough subscribers. Yes, I'm a small independent YouTube channel. I live stream on a non-consistent basis. You've enjoyed how consistent I've been throughout this entire year, but let's be honest, there's been moments in time where I've just completely taken a break. I deserve all the subscribers, and if I don't get it, you're raping me. How? Don't ask.
These cops ever afforded a fair trial with due process, given the public's extreme involvement in the case and with legitimate widespread concerns of the city being completely burned down if Derek Chauvin was found not guilty? And how important was the media in shaping public sentiments and the actual outcome of the Derek Chauvin murder case?
Despite what this court has ruled, I know we cannot hide our thoughts or intent from God, for we must give an account on the day we appear before God. Therefore, I must obey. To hold on to the truth, I did not commit these crimes. My conscience is clear.
After 3 years of reflection, I was hoping for a little more remorse, regret, acknowledgement of some responsibility.
Why was the body cam footage withheld from the public 2 months after George Floyd's death, and why?
Do I have to say it again? I feel like I don't have to say it again, but I end up having to say it again because I guess we're not paying too much of full attention to information that has to be brought to the public. What is occurring? Is this fucking thing spewing at me?
Why didn't the media reassess the context leading up to Floyd's arrest?
This might sound off topic to people that aren't familiar, but I'm glad I played Metal Gear Solid. Why? It's a shitty game.
Releasing the body cam footage for the public to watch themselves. Given that the only time I'd seen the police body cam footage in full and dissected at length in a documentary titled The Fall of Minneapolis, I met up with the investigative journalist who made it, Liz Collins, and her husband, who was president of the Minneapolis Police Union at the time, Bob Kroll, who in 2020 came to be known by the public as Bob KK Kroll. But real quick,
I'd be like, going down the road, you
if you want to support our boots on the ground independent Liz, what was your job here in Minneapolis?
So I was a longtime anchor and reporter for the CBS station in Minneapolis, WCCO Television. I'm from Minnesota, worked at that station for almost 15 years.
What were you doing on May 25th, the day George Floyd died?
We had just been coming back from a trip out of town and was at home when Bob got the call that there was this in-custody death involving Minneapolis police. The video surfaced on Facebook several hours later. Anybody who looks at the video thinks, see, this is awful, this is horrible to watch. But, you know, in Bob's role, and I've been a reporter, you know, for 20 years, I always know that there's a lot more to the story.
The first phone call I got, I thought maybe it was an excited delirium case and someone had died in police custody, or respond to it as I did at all critical incidents. They would just let me know if he survives or not, because these things, you know, unfortunately are not that uncommon when they're dealing with people that are hopped up on narcotics. It could be an OD, it could be an excited delirium, could be any number of things at this point. I briefly asked if there was any force used on him, and there was minimal, just restraining, no strikes, anything like that. And about 20 minutes later, Tom called me back and told me that the subject had been deceased.
That was George Floyd?
Yes. So I went to the courthouse. They were clearing the scene and going down to our headquarters downtown Minneapolis. Basically, our role there is, one, call the officer, tell him what's going to occur, what takes place. And generally, our priorities are get the officer photographed in his uniform as he was in the incident, surrender the firearm to the crime lab. If they want to see a police chaplain or anything like that, sometimes they're available. We would review all the body camera footage.
Firstly, you have bad taste. I knew you were going to get mad at that. I am a proprietor of all things troll.
Sometimes it's that night, oftentimes it's the next day, or maybe a day at the max, two later. It's always been made available within a couple of days.
So how long did it actually end up taking?
Well, in this case, we never got it.
But this is the very first time that in a critical incident that the press was not allowed to see that. Why taxpayers pay for body camera footage, right, or body cameras for all their officers. So I still don't have a very good answer to this day as to why they kept that body camera footage from the public for so long, because we know that there was so much more to this incident right away that they seem to want to keep this hidden for some reason. So then as a reporter, that almost raises more alarm that why are they manipulating this? Not only that, but it's very early within the first couple of days that I noticed that there are 2 pages that are mysteriously missing from the police training manual. This is after the police chief and the mayor start saying, whatever you see on camera there that is not something that these officers are trained to do, that's not a recognized technique. And I just, as a reporter, go online like I've done many times before to check this out, and still to this day I haven't got a good answer as to why those 2 pages were wiped.
And what did you notice was missing from the police training manual?
So the policy in particular that was gone was the maximal restraint technique, the MRT.
Can you explain what that is?
So it's a policy, basically you hear Thomas Lane say it in the body camera footage.
Which says MRE, right?
Yes, and then in the interview with the FBI he says, I may have said it wrong, but it'd be MRT.
Take him out and just...
MRE. I can't breathe. Come on out.
I appreciate that, I do.
You got your arm.
Jesus Christ. Thank you.
Now move it. Mama. One of the front couches. Mama. On my right side back. Mama.
Am I horrendous for finding a piece of this amusing only because it's on like 1.7 speed?
In subsequent interviews with Derek Chauvin, which I've done while he's in prison, he talks about that's exactly what they were doing, MRT. All of the officers have said that's exactly what they were doing that day. If you look at the side-by-side of what was in the manual and what took place on 38th in Chicago, it's exactly what these officers were doing.
And I had just left, and the public information officer called me back up. He said, can you come to the chief's office? And I returned. You should know, we had a very good working relationship, he and I. He says, you got to see this. And he showed me the footage taken from the girl's cell phone at the scene. And
honestly, if the game itself ain't your thing, I have an even worse thing to tell you. I've never played Metal Gear Solid. I've never once played Metal Gear Solid. I'm sorry. I know. You ain't got to tell me, because I know. But you got to remember, it's me.
He said, I'm going to call in the FBI. And I said, Chief, don't you think you're jumping the gun here? Let's put the brakes on. I go, we don't know if this thing has been doctored. We don't know if it's authentic. Why don't we wait until we see all the other footage?
Why haven't I played it? No one asked. Real men played real video games.
The officer's body camera footage.
Like Spyro.
Leading up to this, any other type of footage of it.
Explains why you called it bad. No, I called it bad because I just knew it was going to irk you.
Any other systems available before we call in the effort.
I've heard that it's a beloved franchise. I can respect that it's a beloved franchise. I just wanted to troll you with my lack of information, much like everyone else does in the world. You fool. I have 78 alt accounts.
Yeah, and he said, no, but it's a decision that I make, and it was 3 a.m., so that's what changed the game.
3 a.m., the chief of the police says, we're going to turn this into the FBI. Does that seem abnormal to you, in your opinion?
They've never came in before, ever. So at that point, everything changed in that all the video evidence for us to see was locked down. We never had a chance to view it, and truly the first time I saw any of it was on television during the officer's criminal trial.
Former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin's murder trial began on Monday. Chauvin is charged in connection to the death of George Floyd. Floyd died last May after Chauvin allegedly kneeled on his neck and head for nearly 9 minutes.
Chauvin is in the courtroom, but America's on trial. America's on trial to see if we have gotten to the place where we can hold police accountable.
America, guilty. You're still on trial. I feel like I might just be making this up, and if I am, stifle me. But I feel like this is not the first time I've heard someone say America's on trial for all the bigotry and all this extra shit.
They break them.
And it ain't the first time that they've failed or been found guilty and still, or not guilty, and things still continue the way they've been.
Of course, the prosecutors are going to come out with using the video. Now, the defense, of course, is pretty sure that they're going to try to poke a hole in that and say, no, George Floyd had drugs in his system, he had other medical conditions, which are more likely to be the cause of his death than Derek Chauvin.
So, Liz, how does the media handle this video at the time as you're sitting back and watching it all unfold?
Yeah, so this was very different, really from the beginning. Normally, we get more context from our, so-called leaders. Instead, you could tell there was this, fanning of the flames that happened right from the get-go, talking about how this wasn't a part of police training. You have the mayor apologizing to Black America, when in fact there were 4 police officers on scene of mixed race. A Black police officer arrests George Floyd. Just all these things.
Can't trust those Indians, bro. They don't like the black people. We made curry fried chicken one time, and they've been the enemy of us ever since.
Things that were not matching up with what I knew enough about the case. But more than anything, how much was hidden. Kept documenting.
If George Floyd didn't die, he'd be the mayor of the lowest ranked city in Minneapolis. What are you talking about?
All of these things that I just knew something was not right, but I was also bringing it to the attention of reporters who were covering the story, because I was not, and it seemed they were not interested. Instead of actually focusing on the facts of this case, they went ahead and just wanted to dive into this very divisive and dangerous narrative.
They terminated them all within 24 hours. By Derek Chauvin's request, we never grieved his termination. He said, I'm not worried about the job. I want to keep my livelihood and be clear to any wrongdoing, but I'm not interested in coming back as a Minneapolis cop despite the outcome. So we never filed a grievance in Chauvin's case. We did file a grievance for the other 3 officers because, again, if you're going to, the internal discipline is completely separate from any type of investigation over the death. If they would have been ultimately cleared in these trials, it comes back to only the evidence they knew at that time, and there was 0 for an investigation. So
in their eyes, it was the video?
Yes, that video off the phone. That one.
So in your opinion at that time, do you think something's amiss? Is this unusual? Are you like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah, again, I handled a number of these over a number of years. This was an anomaly. Nothing like this had ever happened before.
He quickly rises to sort of this martyr role, which is interesting because there's a lot of information out there about him. And this is not to say that this isn't a tragic situation that happened. He didn't deserve to die. Nobody's here to say that. But there's just a lot to be said about what was kept from the public. He was in and out of prison most of his adult life. He was a felon, and in fact, the suspect in a couple of sexual assaults that took place that still to this day no one has reported on. And also this arrest in 2019, which is so similar.
Curry fried chicken sound amazing. Yes, we all thought that, but they didn't. And they've been on us ever since.
He can't breathe. He's not complying with the police. He has to be taken to a hospital because he nearly overdoses in that situation.
Open your mouth. Spit out what you got. Spit out what you got.
Yeah, he was the subject of an undercover drug investigation. And instead, you have the chief talking very shortly after this incident. He says, we don't know George Floyd. We've never had any interactions with him. That was just another lie. Thomas Lane that approaches the vehicle, but a clerk at Cup Foods that calls because George Floyd had allegedly passed a counterfeit $20 bill.
Okay, so at what point does George Floyd say, I can't breathe, I can't breathe, I can't breathe?
It happens within minutes of Thomas Lane and Alex King getting on scene.
No, in the car. No, you're not in the car. I'll be in the car. Okay, man, okay? I'm not bad guy, man. In the car. I'm not bad guy. Please, take a seat. Leave man. Please. No, take a seat. I can't joke. I can't breathe, man.
Clearly does not want to be arrested, and he has kind of a very similar, script almost as to what transpired in 2019. That's why we put the body camera footage in the fall of Minneapolis, because nobody ever got to see any of that. So that's why the first 20 minutes of our documentary is in fact, here's what actually really took place that day.
And in that documentary, you guys zoom in on him swallowing something. What is that perceivably?
More than likely, was drugs. But they were trying to pass it off basically as that it was gum in George Floyd's mouth.
Interesting.
And there were drugs found, in his car, on him. The autopsy is something that also could have been released within 12 hours. The autopsy is complete on George Floyd. Still to this day, the only official autopsy by Dr. Andrew Baker of the Hennepin County Medical Examiner's Office. And that autopsy shows there's no strangulation marks on George Floyd, no asphyxia. So many things that would also have countered that video pretty quickly. They have to wait for a little while with toxicology results, which show 3 times the lethal limit of fentanyl in his system, methamphetamine. He has very large organs, blockage in his heart. He has a paraganglioma, which is a tumor in his hip. He's been described to me as sadly kind of a ticking time bomb. Instead of getting that medical evidence out there, it's withheld and released on the same day that George Floyd's family releases their own, they call it an autopsy, but it's really anything but. It's 2 medical examiners hired by George Floyd's family, and they basically say, George Floyd was a healthy young man, and he died from what you see in the video. Why wasn't the public told that Thomas Lane called for an ambulance 36 seconds after George Floyd himself asks to be laid on the ground?
Because we got to spout that narrative, man. What are you talking about? You know how we do this. Fried chicken tastes better when you're skydiving. As someone who skydove before, no. The last thing I want to worry about while I'm plummeting to my hopeful but never going to happen demise is chicken.
I just released a written statement, and that was within a day or two after, very brief, that, the officers are cooperating in the process, and let's be calm and not jump to judgment. And I was apparently villainized for that.
Why was that controversial?
I still to this day don't know that answer to that. If you read the statement, there's nothing controversial about it.
So after releasing that statement, do you then become KK Kroll in the public's perspective?
Well, you got to understand, in years past, I had spoken out for officers, under investigation in critical incidents where all the facts were known to me, because I had talked with the attorneys, I had viewed the video evidence, and I, in some cases, saw where the suspect had shot at the officers. So I came out and held press conferences and made a much stronger statement, which in hindsight would be better, and most agencies throughout the country have actually the chief of police do that.
The news station you worked with and for, they knew your relationship with Bob early on. Tell me about that as a foundation.
Yeah, so we've been married for several years by the time this even happened. I didn't report on Minneapolis police incidents involving the police union, beyond car accidents or there were crimes and whatnot. But Bob obviously had nothing to do with. Actually, we never really had any issues. It was fine, but it just all blew up. That we had some sort of conspiracy, wedding, and I was hiding it from the public as if I.
You were trying to fucking finagle cops for favor. Get those DEIs that you had on your fucking. Did I say DEIs? Those DUIs on your record sponged by laying that pussy wood on a cop.
I was supposed to talk about what my husband did for.
Am I doing good? Am I doing good with spreading propaganda? Could I be a person? Could I be a media personality?
Living every night going.
You all have to fucking help me in my quest to be a media mogul who spreads misinformation. You all have to fucking be my echo chamber.
Bob's getting crucified publicly.
I'm getting crucified publicly also.
At what point do you get brought into the public spotlight and you become Ava Braun, as you say?
Within days also. Bob had a familiar face as far as pushing back, and it really bothered them that he brought up George Floyd's criminal history, including an arrest that took place that was almost a carbon copy that took place back in 2019 of what happened in 2020. So that was obviously the wrong thing the media and the public thought for him to do, and I got swept up into all of that as well.
And at what point do these Antifa far-left activists sort of come to your own home and start harassing you and things become a little more serious and potentially dangerous?
Well, I was notified from, one of the Washington County Sheriff's Office that there had been social media attempts to find out where we lived, and all of a sudden when they got it, it just blew up. My phone had been, received well over 100 voice messages and many death threats.
Besides the 4 officers involved directly in the incident, are you the public-facing fall man? Is Redondo scapegoating you publicly? And at what point were you forced to resign?
I was not forced. I retired the regular way. You have to be 55 years old with X amount of years, and I had more than enough years service, so I retired about 6 months after I was eligible for retirement. One of the other things that they targeted me for was I had been on stage with Donald Trump at a rally in 2019. I assumed everything that the media said about him was put onto me in the same manner, which helped villainize me with everyone on the left.
Social media takes the story and runs with it for what it is. The body cam footage has yet to have been released. The public's outraged. When does the city burn?
The city starts burning within 2.
I want pussy, that's a dacha. Hold on, wait. In the pimps in the crib, drop it like a, drop it like a, drop it like a.
Days. Nothing that night. The next night you see the crowds start to gather. We were in communication with people that work at the airport. They talk about airplanes full of people coming in. Bricks were set on intersections basically to be thrown. I mean, you see sort of this, something is going on.
Sure.
And rather than our political officials coming out, calling for calm, they instead, again, make this all about race. And, they're talking about how this is justified behavior. Words mattered so much in that moment, and they certainly didn't use the right ones.
And what I noticed from the media at the time is we're seeing a mostly peaceful protest. Is that what you saw?
Where I was working, we were not even allowed to use the term riots at all. You could call them protests or peaceful protests. I saw that very early.
Leon Moore, investigative integrity in CNN. It's not really that. It's the fact that I just don't have it in me to just be wrong as much as everyone else likes to be wrong. I would rather just be right and then just go about my fucking day. That make me feel bad.
Or they were manipulating the language. It happens within just a couple of days. The real rioting starts. At first, it's just big crowds of people coming into the city, actual airlines flying in with people that were protesters, professional protesters coming in.
You look at the place now, it's decimated. I don't ever see it recovering. The area we just walked through was the most vibrant intersection of Lake and Hennepin for years and years and years, and now it's a ghost town.
And do you think the death of George Floyd ultimately furthered relationships between the police and the public, or did it negatively affect it?
I think it's impacted the communities that they were out to help, if you will, in a negative way. I think if you'd interview your average black citizen in the city, they will tell you they wish they had more police. They never had bad relations with police, and they actually wish the white liberals from the suburbs would stay out of their business.
And how did the rest of the cops feel at this time?
They feel defeated. They're scrutinized over everything they do. There's no proactive police work going on because they don't want to end up going to prison or being fired. It's completely changed the dynamic of policing in not just Minneapolis, but beyond.
How much damage was done to the city following George Floyd's death?
About 1,500 businesses have been destroyed and over $500 million in damage. And many
but they have insurance, so it should be fine.
These businesses did not come back. And if they did, the customers didn't come back.
The majority of them were minority-owned businesses along Lake Street. I think it's a total of 17.
No, they were all white because, remember, Blackout Tuesday. Am I doing good? You got to tell me if I'm doing good with my propaganda.
People that were charged federally in the wake of the riots in Minneapolis, and the longest prison sentence was about 4 years, and that was for arson at the 3rd Precinct. But if you look at the video yourself, you can certainly see a lot more people responsible than 17.
When you eventually see the rest of the police officers in trial and the results of that trial, did you end up thinking this was a miscarriage of justice in any ways? Did they even have a chance?
There was no chance. It needed to be a change of venue. The jurors, they were compromised and intimidated. People knew who they were. They're walking in every day to a place that's built like a fortress with fences around it and National Guard out and things like that. There was zero expectations in my mind of a fair trial for any of the officers involved without a change of venue. And the judge took a cowardly way out.
I think that he himself really felt that what they did so much in those very early days, they were kind of writing the script themselves, so he didn't think that he stood a chance at a fair trial either. Their trials were separate, but Derek Chauvin, obviously, he was found guilty. But also in his case, not so much what the jury was shown and told, but more about what they were not. Again, MRT was not even allowed to be in
subpar propaganda. You're Canadian, so you don't really know.
Trial of Derek Chauvin.
The body cam footage, was that admitted?
It was admitted, but I think you could watch the trial and you can see almost how it's manipulated. There's a reason you were only able to see that one exhibit with what looks to be Chauvin's knee on the neck. Freeze frame, I think it's about 17 different times that it's shown, rather than the actual body camera footage where there's more to it. And the other officers, they've told me...
Why can't I get into a fucking ranked game? Fortnite. I'm trying to show my skills as a ranked player. I don't want to play your shitty little fucking game mode. I want to fucking be awesome as a loser-esque fucking guy. Fuck it, I'll play ranked on the big map.
In interviews, after they saw what happened in Derek Chauvin's trial, they went ahead to just decided to plead guilty because they would have faced even longer prison time after seeing what Hennepin County jury would return. Tao had a couple years added to his sentence after he told the judge, I didn't do this, I'm not going to apologize. And then he started quoting Bible verses. The judge didn't like that and gave him an extra couple years. I think that they were looking for a case like this all across the country. This was a presidential election year, but we really had the perfect people in the perfect positions in our politicians for this to be allowed here. Actually, in a way, I feel bad for George Floyd. I think he was really used.
A burden, it is now your purpose to change the world for the better. The name of George Floyd.
He was used for this movement. His family never even went back to collect his personal belongings. His relationship with his family was not a good one. He wasn't a great person, but I don't know how we've become so twisted as a society that we would look at basically a lifelong felon as a hero.
What role do you think the media had in Chauvin's conviction and the way the public perceived this entire series of unfortunate events?
This is partly why I left, so-called corporate media, because they cared more about pushing this propaganda than facts. And I've always been one to care about, there's another side or bring this person forward. It did not happen with this story. I think fear permeated the day. Clearly, it sent a message when you watch hundreds of businesses burn to the ground each and every night over and over again. So are you going to be the one that's going to step up?
Yeah, motherfucker, you fear my left-wingness. My left-wing propaganda is all that we need.
Up and say, hey, there's this, or how about this? Here's pretty powerful. The thing that would have changed this right away is if they just told the truth about all of it. You have a man who committed a felony. He's resisting arrest over and over again. Again, you have Chauvin, who wasn't even supposed to be working that day, who just arrives on scene. George Floyd at this time had been talking about how he can't breathe before Derek Chauvin even arrives there. Just imagine if they would release this video, let's say the next day, which they haven't, and they went frame by frame with the public. Just keep calm, cool heads. Maybe this looks like one thing, but here's what all happened. Instead of taking pages of the manual offline, instead of hiding the body camera footage from the public, you're firing the officers the very next day.
Rather than fuel the flames, try and tamp them down. That's the role of leadership at that point, and we had the exact opposite in both Minneapolis and the state of Minnesota.
Ask yourself, why was this withheld? Are you okay with your justice system looking like this? Are you okay with your government acting like this? Are you okay being lied to? I think these are questions we need to ask ourselves. It's really a sad state of affairs for someone like me who really believes in journalism when you actually have to leave your career in order to tell the truth.
How important was the role of the mayor at the time and the Governor Walz?
Again, it's a time that called for leadership, and we saw the exact opposite. Using the words murder within days, making this all about race, apologizing to Black America. Black lives, sadly, have never mattered less in Minneapolis. The homicide rates are up 30% over where they were at this time last year.
Do you think the Black Lives Matter movement and the death of George Floyd positively impacted race relations in the United States?
Well, I think a lot of people have turned on Black Lives Matter, realizing that it is in fact just a Marxist political organization.
How dare you accurately speak about an organization that really just collected money and then got the fuck.
And that's what it always has been. It sounds good, right? But I do.
With small donations in areas that really haven't helped in anything. Why are you awake so? What is with you people? Why won't anyone praise me? You know what? This is the last stream. This is the last stream I'm ever doing. I'm never streaming again after this. I'm done. I quit. I can't just be supported in my efforts. No. I'm always fucking criticized. Going out with a bang. I just can't fucking. I can't never get any respect around here. here.
You don't see their footprint here quite as much as you once did.
Do you think Derek Chauvin killed George Floyd?
So I would say there's a lot of evidence that supports, in fact, that he did not. And I actually challenge people to come forward with evidence that he did.
Well, considering that the original medical examiner of Hennepin County to have examined Floyd's body before
Don't quit, bro. I just got
Floyd's family hired 2 other pathologists to do so, he believed that.
In my opinion, the physiology of what was going on with Mr. Floyd on the evening of May 25th is, he had very severe underlying heart disease. I don't know that we specifically got to it, counselor, but Mr. Floyd also had what we call hypertensive heart disease, meaning his heart weighed more than it should. So he has a heart that already needs more oxygen than a normal heart by virtue of its size, and it's limited in its ability to step up to provide more oxygen when there's demand because of the narrowing of his coronary arteries. Now, in the context of an altercation with other people that involves things like physical restraint, that involves things like being held to the ground, that involves things like the pain that you would incur from having your cheek up against the asphalt, an abrasion on your shoulder, those events are going to cause stress hormones to pour out into your body, specifically things like adrenaline. And what that adrenaline is going to do is it's going to ask your heart to beat faster. It's going to ask your body for more oxygen so that you can get through that altercation. And in my opinion, the law enforcement's dual restraint and the neck compression was just more than Mr. Floyd could take by virtue of those heart conditions.
In contrast, Martin J. Tobin, a world-renowned pulmonologist, testified that Floyd died from a low level of oxygen, citing how Chauvin's knee and Floyd's position on the concrete obstructed Floyd's airways.
That Officer Chauvin's knee is coming in, and that's compressing in against his side as well. So the ability to expand his left side here is enormously impaired. And of course, the key factor you must keep that isn't kind of in a sense seen here in one sense is the street. The street is what is having a huge effect because he's jammed down against the street. And so the street is playing a major role in preventing him from expanding his chest.
Ultimately, the jury sided with Tobin's theory and ruled Chauvin's knee and in turn Chauvin to be the cause of death.
We just felt like the evidence was overwhelming for our verdict. It had nothing to do with pressure from anywhere.
Mitchell says for him, the most compelling witness on the stand was this man, Dr. Martin Tobin, one of the nation's leading lung experts.
So let's say, just as the jury found, Chauvin's knee did in fact kill Floyd. Let's say Chauvin's knee on his body was a complete and improper use of the maximal restraint technique. Let's say it was not even the maximal restraint technique given that the hobble was never used. What if this was the result of police training by the MPD that led Chauvin to act accordingly within the context of this arrest? First, let's start with the testimony by Lieutenant Johnny Merciel, establishing that MPD cops were trained to assume if someone can talk, then they can breathe.
Have you ever been trained or trained others to say that if a person can talk, they can breathe?
It's been said yes.
Furthermore, it's of this lieutenant's opinion that it would have been more difficult to render medical aid if the individual is fully hobbled.
Is it more or less difficult to render medical aid if someone is in the
The streets killed George Floyd. He was a victim. That hood life got him.
I would say it was probably
That hood life got him bad.
You would not be able to put them on their back, for example.
It would be difficult, yes.
His testimony also establishes that people often lie to avoid arrest, and police are aware of this.
When you've arrested people, have you had people plead with you not to arrest them?
Yes, sir.
Have you had people say they were having a medical emergency?
Yes, sir.
Have you had people say, I can't breathe?
Yes, sir.
Were there circumstances during the course of your career as a patrol officer where you didn't believe that person was having a medical emergency?
Yes, sir.
And that's all part of the analysis in terms of the use of force, right?
It plays a part, yes, sir.
There was also evidence to suggest that a cop can hold someone in a prone position, not turning them into the side recovery until the scene is code 4, meaning the scene is safe.
You also train officers to be very much aware of their surroundings at all times, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you were asked a series of questions about continuing to hold someone in a prone position, and you used the term, you could hold them there until the scene is code 4. Do you recall that?
Yes, sir.
And so it's fair to say that the Minneapolis Police Department would train officers under certain circumstances to hold a person in a prone position until the scene is safe, correct?
There are circumstances where that is appropriate, yes.
And some of those circumstances could be the reaction of bystanders, correct?
That may be a factor, yes.
Which officers are trained to assess the totality of the scene, but which one could argue the nearby crowd was hostile. If these are the parameters Chauvin was trained under, and if Chauvin's knee really was the cause of death, then who is really to blame here? The police department itself, or the officer trained under the police department? And was this entire scenario the result of bad or vague training principles, in combination with a series of unfortunate external factors?
It was the fucking fixation on everybody fixating on a fucking thing to fixate on. Unfortunately, throughout lack of information and poor communication and a drastic misunderstanding of how to operate in terms of dealing with situations, you have a fucking cesspool that boiled over into a bad scenario. Any details that could help sway the opinion or information about this drastically didn't fucking matter because it was more important to paint a narrative more than just to tell the truth.
Did Chauvin really showcase evidence consistent with that of a depraved mind? Or was he holding a combative person resisting arrest, potentially posing a danger to himself with an angry crowd nearby yelling at them until the EMT arrived, to which in any other circumstance they would have arrived when Floyd was still breathing?
I didn't hit 3 strikes.
Given he was still talking for 5 minutes straight while on the ground.
I'm surprised I didn't hit 3 strikes. I was actually waiting to see moments in time, but I didn't get it. What I got was really a lowbrow fucking video about an investigation where it was really just questions that everybody already had answers to. And the only reason there's probably a comment section full of people saying, oh, I didn't know about any of this, is because they themselves didn't do any research past, oh, how dare they fucking cheat the verdict. None of this was new to me. This is just like the Candace Owens documentary. This is just like the Gothics documentary. If you know about a good majority of this shit, you're not going to fucking walk away from it being like, oh, this is all brand new. This is specifically for people who've never paid attention to anything past a certain point, and they just wanted to see some new information. And if you got something out of that, congratulations. But if you didn't, then, you kind of wasted your own time. Before we leave YouTube to focus on our twitching, we have to worry about our twitching We're going to learn about tariffs today.
But the word tariff is the most beautiful word in the dictionary. Remember that.
Wow, so if we tariff the exports from other countries, they'll just pay us money with no downsides? Why didn't we try this before? Because that's not how tariffs work. And we have tried this before, and it might have caused the Great Depression. Just after the election, people suddenly started to search for how tariffs work and who pays for tariffs. The answer may surprise you, or it might be blindingly obvious. But can Trump install whatever tariffs he wants, and who?
You're leaving us? I mean, I'm leaving you YouTube people so that I could go fixate on fingering robots on Twitch.
Pays for them? Chaos lawyer Liz Dye explains.
Thanks, Devin. Donald Trump has promised to slap 60% tariffs on all goods coming in from China and a 10% tariff on goods imported from all.
Now, before we go any further, I need to establish my issue with a certain collection of people. It's the people who have backed tariffs, and their gimmick is, hey, this is going to bring in more of an investment for the American businesses. No, it is not. It's going to cause the American businesses to match the prices of the fucking out of country sellers, which means a lot of shit's gonna cost a lot more money. Not just your fucking Peruvian made in China deodorant, but your shitty American made deodorant as well. Also, because maybe it's not understood through the sentence I just stated. Imagine everyone complaining about their $5 eggs or their eggs being $3. Imagine after 8 months of this quote unquote great tariff plan, those $5 eggs turned into $9 eggs. Doesn't really seem like anything shrunk in price, now does it? And I saw one individual make the drastic fucking head scratching argument that it won't be because of Trump, it'll be because we're under the restrictions and rules of the Biden administration, because a president comes in and inherits all the issues of the previous presidency, which is the exact thing people were saying about Biden and the economy, because we are still under Trump's fucking economic plan from the last time he was president. And people ignored that for so long because it was more important to just get the guy in office and we'll worry about all the fucking legality of everything later, which has led to a bunch of people Googling what are tariffs and how can I change my vote. So while I understand you really wanted your guy to win, part of the problem is a group of motherfuckers not doing any research past, oh, this YouTuber explained it quite well, but not in full detail. And that's why a lot of motherfuckers are now scrambling to fucking explain terrorists in a way that doesn't make it sound bad, but it doesn't work.
All other countries. On the campaign trail, he even threatened to impose a whopping 100% tariff on auto imports from America's largest trading partner, Mexico.
Because if you all don't know, a lot of our stuff isn't made in America. There's a good percentage of the stuff in your house right now that has a made in China logo on it somewhere.
Before we talk,
who does? It's so impractical. Hey, we got a $23 Sky Pack. Come on.
Appreciate the follow.
About if he can legally do that or if it's a good idea. Let's define our terms. The Center-Right Tax Foundation defines tariffs as taxes imposed by one country on goods imported from another country. Tariffs are effectively a tax on consumer goods paid by you and me and every other person who wants to buy stuff. So say that a Chinese manufacturer agrees to sell Nike a pair of shoes for $20. A 60% tariff means that the importer, that is Nike, pays $12 to the US government when those sneakers are offloaded from a cargo ship docked in Long Beach, California. Trump insists that the Chinese manufacturer is the one who ultimately pays for that tariff and that this will swell the U.S. government coffers with no impact on the American consumer whatsoever. But that's just wrong. The Chinese manufacturer is never going to eat the $12 tariff, and Nike doesn't want to reduce its net profit. So the end result is that the $12 tariff gets passed on to the American consumer at the point of sale, raising the wholesale price of that pair of sneakers by $12.
Yeah, if I...
Remember what I said 30 seconds ago about imagining your $3 egg turning into $8? Imagine your $3 egg turning into $15. That's just one example. Excuse me, I'm lying to you. That's the only example that kept being brought up. Eggs. As if that was the only goddamn thing that would see a price hike. Which it was not the only thing. It was the only thing motherfuckers wanted to concede that could be an underlying fucking issue. But because I live in a world of people who think that that's above and beyond, that was the issue I had to deal with. Because no one wanted to just say, hey, we don't know what we're talking about, but we do know how to bitch and moan about it and make it seem like it's way more important than what it is. I have no more mats. I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die unless I pull out some old school Fortnite skill.
If I can interject for a second, the problem is actually worse. You think, okay, a 60% tariff, so the consumer just ends up paying $12 more. Not great, but not terrible. But no.
Don't even get me started on gas, bro. I saw gas on Wednesday that was $5.55. That's really yuck.
Because sellers operate by gross margin. So if Nike imports a shoe for $20, they need to make a profit. But they aren't selling directly to the consumer. They need to sell the shoe to the retailer. And transport, advertising, and overhead is expensive. And doubling the manufacturing cost before selling it at wholesale would be totally normal. So let's say they sell it to Foot Locker for $40. But Foot Locker has to pay staff and operating costs in all their stores, which is expensive. So Foot Locker roughly doubles the wholesale cost of it again, and ultimately sells the shoe to a consumer for $80. But that's in a tariffless world. A 60% tariff makes it $32 at import instead of $20, and $64 at wholesale, and then $128 at retail, assuming the same margins. So a $12 increase in tariffs on the cost of goods could easily result in a $48 increase in the final sales price that consumers pay. This is a simplification. In the real world, it would depend on the pricing power, and some of the costs would be shared between the parties, but you get the idea of how a small increase in cost of goods resulted.
I was told he bankrupt casinos. If you're talking about Trump, yes.
And a much larger downstream cost to consumers. Plus, the domestic manufacturers don't just sit back while their foreign competitors raise their price. Why would they turn down free money when the consumer doesn't have any choice but to pay more? They raise their price to match or just undercut the foreign competition.
Remember what I said. For all of you people that just wanted to say $3 egg, it's not just going to be your $3 egg that turns into a $15 egg. It's going to be pots and pans. It's going to be essentials. It's going to be luxury wear. But they all dismissed it because, oh, we know more about tariffs than you do. Sure you do.
Cherry on top is that our foreign trading partners don't just sit back and take it either. They issue retaliatory tariffs against America.
Now I realize this. The gimmick months ago when he was bringing this up was, oh, it's a great idea to start tariffing all these countries. That shifted from it's a great idea to it's a great strategy to get these people to do what they want so that we could get all these illegals back across the border, which is going to take up a lot of your fucking tax dollars. Because they can't just do that without any money. They need somebody's money, and it's going to be your American tax dollars. And some of you may be okay with that, and that's fine. I'm going to tell you with a straight face, you're not going to get everybody.
Making them less competitive abroad.
You're not even going to get a significant amount.
So people buy fewer American goods. And none of those taxes nor the original tariffs actually go to American companies. I don't know why people think this is boring.
In 1930, the Republican-controlled House of Representatives, in an effort to alleviate the effects of the, anyone? The Great Depression, raised tariffs. Did it work? Anyone?
If tariffs just make everything more expensive, why would we even want them? Well, in the early days of the Republic, we funded the government with tariffs on imports along with excise taxes on sinful products like alcohol and tobacco, which worked out more or less okay for about 100 years, especially for wealthy industrialists or the so-called robber barons who paid basically nothing to Uncle Sam. But in 1893, wheat prices crashed and an overexpansion of silver mines and railroads led to an economic bubble that burst. And even though the Great Depression hadn't happened yet, the Panic of 1893 ushered in the greatest depression that the country had ever seen, with unemployment rocketing to almost 20%. Imports dried up overnight and no one had any money for alcohol and tobacco, which meant that the government had to go find some other source of funding. And that's how we wound up with a federal income tax instead of a pure consumption tax. In 1913, Congress ratified the 16th Amendment, which states the Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes on incomes from whatever source derived. The U.S. government finally had a stable funding mechanism that wasn't directly tethered to the extreme ups and downs of the economy. And it was more fair. Because if you think about it, you only need one toothbrush and Bill Gates only needs one toothbrush. But if the tax on a toothbrush is, say, 12 cents, well, that's a lot bigger share of your paycheck than it is of Bill Gates's. But Trump believes in cutting taxes on corporations and wealthy individuals, essentially returning us to the pre-16th Amendment days. In fact, the massive tax cut he rammed through during his first term is about to expire. Spoiler alert, it did not increase government revenues as promised, and now he wants to make those tax cuts permanent. So Trump has to find another source to make up for all the cash that will not be coming into the government coffers if he keeps cutting taxes for rich people. And that's yet another reason he's so invested in telling the lie that other countries pay import tariffs. In fact, it's a lie he's stretched to fit every occasion. Here he is in September explaining to the Economic Club of New York that the solution for skyrocketing childcare costs is, say it with us now, more tariffs. And you know what? We're going to let you listen to that entire 2-minute answer without any edits.
If you win in November, can you commit to prioritizing legislation to make childcare affordable? And if so, what specific piece of legislation will you advance?
I would kill the children.
Well, I would do that, and we're sitting down. I was somebody, we had Senator Marco Rubio, and my daughter Ivanka was so impactful on that issue. It's a very important issue. But I think when you talk about the kind of numbers that I'm talking
No, you said no edits. Don't add the face. Don't do that. You ruin your credibility.
about, that because the child care is child care. There's something, you have to have it. In this country, you have to have it. But when you talk about those numbers compared to the kind of numbers that I'm talking about by taxing foreign nations at levels that they're not used to, but they'll get used to it very quickly. And it's not going to stop them from doing business with us, but they'll have a very substantial tax when they send products.
I might be drunk, but I saw people claiming that, all the countries that he fucking, I think it was China, Mexico, and Canada, I think people said that they all like cowed down, but then Mexico's was like, no, we're going to tax you.
Product into our country. Those numbers are...
Where's his family been this election cycle? Right there with him. What are you talking about? I think the only one who I think, correct me if I'm wrong, internet, I think the only one who hasn't been seen as much is his wife.
So much bigger than any numbers that we're talking about, including childcare, that it's going to take care. We're going to have, I look forward to having no deficits within a fairly short period of time, coupled with the reductions that I told you about on waste and fraud and all of the other things that are going on in our country, because I have to stay with childcare. I want to stay with childcare, but those numbers are small relative to the kind of economic numbers that I'm talking about, including growth, but growth also headed up by what the plan is that I just told you about. We're going to be taking in trillions of dollars, and as much as
trillions and millions and trillions and millions, we have billions and trillions with the gazillions and millions, and we have pets that are millions upon millions. Oh, they're such good pets, and billions of trillions.
Care is talked about as being expensive. It's relatively speaking not very expensive compared to the kind of numbers we'll be taking in. We're going to make this into an incredible country that can afford to take care of its people, and then we'll worry about the rest of the world. Let's help other people. But we're going to take care of our country first. This is about America first. It's about make America great again. We have to do it because right now we're a failing nation. So we'll take care of it. Thank you.
No, sorry to interrupt, but if you're going to upend the entire economy, you'll probably want a good lawyer. But if you need a great...
I hate these ads so fucking much. It's like he has a fucking way to weave in all of that shit. Hey, if you're going to molest a child, you're going to want a good lawyer. What?
Law firm, the Eagle team.
He's never said that to my knowledge. I just wanted to make a joke. Jesus.
Help. If you've suffered a data breach, especially if you got one of those data breach letters saying that your information might have been leaked, or involved in a car crash, or have dealt with sexual harassment, we can represent you or help find you the right attorney. Because it's so important to talk to a lawyer right away to maximize your recovery and find out what to do next. So just click on the link in the description or call the phone number on screen for a free consultation with my team. Because you don't just need a legal team, you need a legal team. So click below.
Trump's tariff math is also rooted in the claim that making it expensive to import goods from overseas will immediately revive American manufacturing. That idea is formally known as trade protectionism. That is, protecting local industries by making it more difficult or expensive to import goods from foreign competitors. That was the rationale behind the infamous Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act of 1930, named for Republican Senators Reed Smoot and Willis Hawley, and signed into law by Republican President Herbert Hoover, despite a petition from more than 1,000 economists warning him that it would blow up the U.S. economy.
Anyone? The Great Depression, the Hawley-Smoot Tariff Act.
The law imposed punishing tariffs of up to 59% on imported goods in an effort to protect American agriculture and industry. The tariffs are widely blamed for exacerbating the Great Depression, and they failed to curb unemployment, which continued to rise and remained high until the country entered World War II. They also wound up drastically decreasing the market for U.S. exports as other countries enacted retaliatory tariffs on American goods. Smoot and Hawley were both voted out of office in 1932, along with 10 other Republican senators, and Hoover lost to Franklin Roosevelt, winning just 6 states. And for roughly 75 years after that, conservatives opposed tariffs as a wasteful restraint on the free market, which is why the Tax Foundation says that tariffs are trade barriers that raise prices, reduce available quantities of goods and services for U.S. businesses and consumers, and create an economic burden on foreign exporters. Now, you may agree that propping up American manufacturing companies is a good idea. But you cannot escape from the simple math that tariffs are a tax levied on everyone in the form of higher prices for consumer goods for the purpose of ensuring that domestic industries won't have to compete head-to-head with foreign manufacturers, which is why Trump simply lies and says that it's a tax on foreign companies. Because if he said, under my plan, every non-food item at Target and Walmart is going to double in price, no one would vote for it.
They would still vote for him.
And, okay. Every country has tariffs. In fact, the U.S. has an incredibly complicated tariff system laid out in thousands of pages known as the Harmonized Tariffs.
God, we're so stupid. I only think the country is stupid because of how many people were Googling. It became a story to talk about where people Googled, can I change my vote the day after the fucking election? That is the one time I've categorically said with my full chest, this country is stupid. This is why we need economics 101 in high school. The problem is we do. The problem is we had economic experts getting on news stations, getting on social media, getting on all these platforms, telling you this shit. And who got in front of all of these people to say, that's not true? Who? I give you one guess. I'll give you one guess of a group of people. Conservatives. Who the fuck is Tech PO official? Who are you? And how have you been following me since June of 2022? Who are you? Well, that was a welcoming hello. What are you talking about? I always give welcoming hellos. How do you do? I've never... What is this icon next to your name? I've never seen this. What are you, a rapper? Oh, he's a Twitch DJ. Oh! Listen, I frequent your YouTube. You're white. Listen, DJ to somebody who listens to music. Why the fuck do you people refuse to let the songs play for longer than 15 goddamn seconds? Why the fuck do I go to clubs where I fucking have to stand there and hear all the fucking time? I'm staging, you know what? Tariff DJs. You motherfuckers gotta start paying a price. You motherfuckers gotta start paying the price. You fucking remixing all my classical music. How dare. Damn for sure. Damn for certainty. Why is my Twitch chat smaller than my YouTube chat? How about we fix that? How about we make you fuckers bigger than what you are, bigger than what you deserve to be? Yeah, that's good. That's good. The price wasn't right. That's true. This is blackpilling? Yeah, 22 years, 40 years old. I'm telling you, we witnessed soft totalitarianism. Who's 22 years? Am I 22 years? Squatching, what the hell is that logo next to you? Oh, Destiny. What a nerd. Real gamers play pristine games like Fortnite and robot sex addict.
Schedule. How complicated? Well, here's an opinion letter from U.S. Customs and Border Protection to a costume company called Morph Suits, informing it that its Snake Eyes Ninja costume set should be classified as festive, carnival, or other entertainment articles, including magic tricks and practical joke articles, with 0 import duty. But the company's Captain Walker D. Plank set should be treated as other garments knitted or crocheted of man-made fibers, men or boys, with an import tariff of 14.9%. This distinction derives from a 2003 case called Ruby's Costume Company v. United States that differentiated between flimsy, non-durable garments that are essentially toys and well-made items that are functionally clothing. I think
the best we could do is what Trump is doing. I don't know, man. That's why I'm going around and just saying, fuck it. We just got to end up seeing. Because fucking listen to any fucking economic motherfucker. It's that or a 2023 thing. Shut the fuck up. We need to fucking. The sad part is I just gotta wait and see what this fucker ends up doing in this fucking country. these next 4 years. I got my concerns, and if they happen, I guess I'm right. But if they don't happen, thank God. But that doesn't if none of my concerns happen, that doesn't invalidate the concern I have over the worry of $12 increase of products or any fucking increase of products. I guess it just didn't happen. The last president was the author of the Rave Act, the first and foremost, that busted all the raves of the rave scene of America. Hey. That doesn't negate what I said. Why do you fuckers refuse to let a song play out? I don't want to hear your voices when I'm trying to bump it to Glorilla. I don't want to hear your voices when I want to listen to the hot beats of Ice. You got to start scamming the conservatives. Why? What's that markup going to do for gaming prices? I mean, we saw prices hike up before any of this became a topic of discussion. Remember when mainstream games were $60? Now they're touching 70 to 80. Don't even get me started on the fucking deluxe editions. Don't get me started on those at all. That'll just fucking exacerbate whatever feeling anyone has about the subject matter. Also, I could be drunk as fuck, but didn't Trump try to appoint a guy who's got child touching problems? Leon, I'm in Canada. Games are 120 now. Oh, skill issue. Poser. Move to America where they're less than that.
I said, complicated. But complicated isn't necessarily bad. Some problems just are complicated. And promising that you can simply wave a magic wand and fix those problems with one weird simple...
Oh, that's what I wanted to say. Trump got 4 years. And let me tell you something. If you're somebody in here who's like a devout Trump supporter, number one, good for you. Number two, every single goddamn issue that got exacerbated by people in that camp, the border, crime, inflation, he's got 4 years to get it 100% fixed. I will not accept 99%. I will not accept 99.2%. I will not accept 50%. I want it 100% fixed. He's got 4 years. All of these issues that he brought up, that other people who support him brought up, I want them fixed by him. And if he doesn't fix them, I don't ever want to hear anything from you people ever again. Just like I don't want to hear from these fucking leftists running around saying, we need a leftist Joe Rogan. We need a leftist Andrew Tate. I don't want to hear those people speak. But he's got 4 years. And if you don't 100% fix those goddamn problems, I'm taking great issue with all of you, because that's not me setting that standard. That was you motherfuckers who set that standard. You motherfuckers who ran around saying, oh, we vote for Kamala, we're all going to be under a fucking fascist, communist fucking regime, which is the same thing you said under Biden, and that didn't happen. That's the same thing said by some aspects of people who hated Obama. So, yeah, 4 years, get to work starting in January.
Simple economic trick is, it's a lie. Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution says that Congress shall have the power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises, which certainly makes it sound like Congress has the power to impose tariffs. But over the years, Congress has delegated a lot of that power to the executive branch. Specifically, Section 232 of the Trade Expansion Act of 1962 grants the president authority to enact tariffs on essential imports relevant to national security. Section 232 was intended to give the president a tool to protect industries essential to fighting the Cold War. And Presidents Nixon, Ford, Carter, and Reagan all invoked that law to regulate oil production. But the Cold War is over, and no president has ever relied on 232 to justify a trade war, at least not until 2018, when Donald Trump invoked it to justify a 25% tariff on imported steel and a 10% tariff on imported aluminum. Both of these raw materials are indeed essential to national security, but they're not in short supply in the U.S. economy. China and the EU lodged complaints with the WTO about Trump's tariffs, alleging that they violated international free trade agreements. Essentially, they argued that the U.S. was cheating by pulling a fire alarm and calling something an emergency as a tool to extract a better deal. Trump himself admits that he uses tariffs as a bargaining tactic. He couldn't even be bothered to stick with the excuse that he was protecting American security the last time. At various points, he admitted that his levies against China were in retaliation for Chinese theft of American intellectual property. And when Canada protested the tariffs on steel, he responded that they were punishment for Canada's 270% tariffs on American dairy exports. For the record,
damn! He shot the fuck out of me.
Canada does not impose a 270% tariff on American dairy products. Initial WTO panels agreed in 2020 and in 2022 that the U.S. had violated free trade rules with respect to China, the EU, Norway, and Turkey. But the U.S. blocked the appointment of judges to the WTO appellate panel, kneecapping the institution and preventing it from reaching a final resolution on any trade dispute. And by the by, President Biden continued to block those judges, meaning that the WTO will remain functionally toothless for another 4 years. But what does a Section 232 trade war look like for normal Americans? Well,
looks like shit.
Well, the last time around, Trump's Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross, a billionaire steel magnate, went on CNBC holding up a beer and a can of soup he claimed to have just picked up at the 7-Eleven to assure Americans that they'd never even noticed the tariffs.
In the can of Campbell's soup, there's about 2.6 cents. 2.6.
Listen, I don't care about any of your opinions on the legality of the world. Can we fucking put in a rule that if you're above the age of 60, you just gotta stop? You just gotta fucking stop.
Pennies worth of steel. So if that goes up by 25%, that's about 0.6 of 1 cent on the price of a can of Campbell's soup. So who in the world is going to be too bothered by 0.6 of a cent?
Somehow, Republicans in Congress were not convinced by Wilbur Ross cosplaying as Joe Sixpack, and they begged Trump to call it off. Canada immediately announced that it would enact dollar-for-dollar reciprocal tariffs on American exports of whiskey, orange juice, and other food products. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau called the tariffs
an affront to the long-standing security partnership between Canada and the United States, and in particular, an affront to the thousands of Canadians who have fought and died along...
Canada's not a real country. They think that Canadian bacon is real. It's not real. And they deserve to be exiled from the earth. Send them to Mars. You can tell I'm getting tired.
American brothers in arms.
The European Union, which is also our stalwart ally, announced tariffs on $3 billion of American exports, including Harley-Davidson motorcycles. The import duty on Harleys headed for the EU rocketed from 6% to 31%, massively cutting into the company's profit margin as the Europeans opted to buy their bikes from someone other than the US. The Peterson Institute for International Economics said you could not find a better case study than this episode of how the Trump administration's trade policy weakens American export competitiveness. Harley-Davidson responded to the crisis by moving some of its operations to Thailand, where it could export to the EU without the 31% tariff, after which Trump encouraged Americans to outright boycott this American company. In addition to the Trade Expansion Act, Trump invoked the International Emergency Economic Powers Act of 1977, commonly known as IEEPA, to justify imposing even more tariffs. In May of 2019, Trump claimed that undocumented immigrants at the southern border constituted an emergency that justified escalating sanctions on Mexico to force it to intercept migrants from Central America and send them back to their countries of origin. Citing IEEPA, he said Mexico's passive cooperation in allowing this mass incursion constitutes an emergency and extraordinary threat to the national security and economy of the United States. And he promised a 5% tariff on all goods imported from Mexico starting June 10, 2019, escalating by 5% a month until it reached 25% in October, where it would stay until the, quote, illegal migration crisis is alleviated. That would have been a disaster for both the US and Mexico, which is one of our biggest trading partners. Billions of dollars of goods move across the southern border every day in both directions. Plus, the timing of the announcement was especially awkward since the Trump administration had just finished hammering out the US-Mexico-Canada agreement, which replaced the North American Free Trade Agreement. Trump pulled us out of NAFTA, insisting that he could get us a much better deal. Republicans in Congress, who had been painstakingly negotiating USMCA with our biggest trading partner, hit the roof. Trump's own staff eventually talked him out of the Mexico tariffs. Instead, they let him go out on June 7th and announced that he was magnanimously relenting after extracting unspecified accommodations from Mexico with respect to the border. In fact, he'd gotten nothing new. His advice...
What makes it Canadian? Nothing. It's literally just ham. It literally just is ham. But it needs to be stated that in the grand scheme of any idea that Trump has, he still has to deal with a bunch of Republicans who didn't kick his ass. Or kiss his ass. Because while there are fears that this motherfucker's just going to go in and just start writing up a bunch of shit, he still has an ongoing battle of potential Republicans who are like, hold on there, buddy. Let's think about this before we all kind of sign off on it. And that's probably everybody's only hope.
Advisor simply talked him out of doing something that would massively damage the U.S. economy going into an election year. In the first Trump administration, the president took his cues from economics advisor Peter Navarro. Navarro was very big on starting a trade war with China, which is...
And that's another thing. What the fuck did I say? Tech. The immediate just calling people rhinos. Why are they rhinos? What makes them rhinos? Is it because they don't support the ideas done by somebody? I think we got to go a little bit more than that one. I think it'd be better if we did more than just that. It would work out a little bit better.
Which is hardly surprising since Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, picked Navarro by trawling through Amazon's page on economics and cold calling the guy who wrote such works as The Coming War with China and Death by China. Navarro is obsessed with the trade deficit, which is usually defined as the amount by which a country's imports...
Did you know there was a Greek man that invented Hawaiian pizza? And we should shame that man. How dare he completely ruin pizza for a collection of people who don't understand what pizza truly should be.
Exceed the value of its exports. Now, experts are divided on what trade deficits mean for a country's long-term economic health. But the reality is that the U.S. is a rich country, and we have spent most of the last 5 decades negotiating trade deals that allow us to buy vast quantities of cheap consumer goods from poorer countries where production costs are lower. We all decided that we wanted $5 t-shirts for...
I didn't ask for the definition of rhinos. I just said, why are we calling them that? Well, not we, you specifically, because you were the one that brought it up. Hawaiian pizza is a wizard. No. Why is there a pineapple on pizza emote? Pineapple on pizza is king. I'm starting to believe that I have an audience of tyrannical rulers who want to circumvent my republic, and how dare you try to invade my land with this hearsay and nutsay. But in terms of the rhino thing, you call them that because they're just siding with the Democrats, or maybe there's an idea out there that's just not very sound, whether it be because of Democrats or Republicans. It would be wise to not co-sign that and instead come up with something better. Better. I apologize. It's fucking 7 a.m. That would actually be beneficial more than it would be detrimental. On top of which, the idea of the keeping the war going, or the state war going, that's all of those politicians. All of those politicians are a grimy collection of individuals that don't really want to solve the fucking problem, because that's a thing that's throughout history where, you know, a lot of these issues that we all like to pretend are new have been around for a long time, except the get out of jail free card for a lot of people is, oh, well, it's worse now. Well, it could have been prevented from being worse now if the problem got solved back then. All these motherfuckers are in on it, and the reason that's my conspiracy theory I'm willing to die on is because what's stopping any collection of these groups, no matter who's run the White House or the Senate throughout these decades of us either being children at the time, adults now, or non-existent sperms in our father's nuts, what prevented any of these people from either fucking trying it? Where's Trump in all of that? 2016 to 2020. If you wanted an honest answer from me. That's why my eye starts to itch when motherfuckers be, well, Trump isn't a politician. Unfortunately, he's now been the president twice. If he's not a politician, being in the most prominent position of politicians, then I am also not a politician, and even I'm not. But yeah, with all of this shit, this is why I didn't vote. I don't trust any of these fucking people. They're all a waste of my fucking space. And if they end up solving the fucking problem, what do we need them for? We don't need them for anything once they solve the fucking issue. But because they don't solve the fucking issue, that's why we keep relying on them, and we keep watching them all on C-SPAN to make sure that we all see them for what they do. These illegitimate fucking arguments that I keep seeing between Congresswoman A and Congressman B don't really mean anything. Why are you all having personal spats when you're supposed to be fucking deciding on what to do about the fucking border? No, I don't care about snide comments about bitches' hair. No, I don't care about these personal pot shots. Solve the fucking issue that your country and you have been bitching about since well before the turn of the millennia. Fuck! I'm excited as you to watch what happens. There's only two ways this could go. Either we're going to get worse or it's going to stay the same. If you want to throw the third one in where it's, oh, things could get better, sure. But I'm too black-pilled. It's either going to stay the same or it's all just going to get fucking worse. You sound sick? You sound like you got the suds? How? Is it because I just fucking got close to the microphone and sounded like I was dying for a second? And also, why bro did not breathe that entire monologue? What are you talking about? I'm amazing. And you know the sick part? At least, I don't know. Maybe I'm just someone who has oh so ye faith. Why the fuck is Linda McMahon a part of this cabinet? Why? I've seen the past 20 years. I think Trump is genuine. The problem is that thought is dictated based off of nothing but the examples of the past several individuals, both Democrat and Republican, who have drastically dwindled this fucking country into what it is. It's been a collaborative effort by all parties involved. The problem is a lot of people just want to pin it on one party, whether if you're a liberal trying to pin it on all of Republicans or you're a Republican trying to pin it on all of Democrats. All these motherfuckers play the part. And that's why I don't fucking vote. Until somebody comes in and abolishes the IRS, I won't be voting. All of you have your fucking reasons for voting. And I don't have anyone who wants to fucking burn the IRS to the fucking ground. So that's why I will never fucking vote. My fucking mom asked me if I'm going to vote. I said no. And she was like, why? It's because why would I? No matter what, there's still going to be something to complain about in this fucking country. Y'all got what y'all wanted in 2016, which was Trump. And guess what? There was still shit to bitch about in this country. Is this Fortnite? Yes, it's Fortnite. Yes, it's Fortnite. And I think throughout all the differences, how about you become president? Are you saying me? I promise you this. If I ever decided on doing that and I somehow won, all of your fucking free speech is going away. I'm telling you that. I don't give a fuck if it nets me a negative in the reputation of how you feel about me. Yes, this is also Fortnite. It's Lego Fortnite. Can't you tell? I'm a Lego Spider-Man. But yeah, my whole campaign is to restrict your fucking speech. I'm tired of you people talking. I'm getting tired of hearing the dumbest shit imaginable. It upsets me. I'm spending the entire campaign saying, we gotta fucking lock up all these motherfuckers who want to psychoanalyze a pedophile and give them a safe space. Nope. No, we ain't. 3 months in the hole. You spouted again? 2 years in the hole. Now I can't say your building sucks. I mean, the thing is, I haven't touched Lego Fortnite in almost a year. I don't even remember where my base camp is. Like, I'm sorry. I don't remember.
From Bangladesh and $300 flat screen TVs from China or South Korea, 2 countries which buy a lot less stuff from us than we buy from them. And that's fine. It's not like you're running a trade deficit with a haircuttery. You made the decision that you'd rather pay someone else to cut your hair rather than have your mom put a bowl on your head and snip around it. And as someone who's had a home haircut can confirm, that's not economic warfare. But Trump and Navarro believe that other countries are somehow pulling a fast one on us if we buy more sneakers and Halloween costumes from them than they buy cars, soybeans, and Marvel Cinematic Universe movies from us. And so they cooked up a plan to make those countries pay for the dastardly crime of selling us stuff we wanted to buy. Trump promised that trade wars are good and easy to win. When we're down $100 billion with a certain country and they get cute, don't trade anymore. We win big. It's easy. But it wasn't easy. Trump's steel tariffs in 2018 failed to bring back steel jobs. According to the St. Louis Fed, there were about 82,000 steel workers in the U.S. when Trump took office, and the exact same number when he left. But the steel tariffs caused the inputs for car plants and construction to go through the roof and precipitated the loss of a reported 75,000 jobs in steel-dependent industries. After Trump imposed tariffs on washing machines, producers raised the price of washers by an average of $86. But they also raised the price of dryers, which were not under any new tariffs, by $92. Because in a capitalist economy, if the government says, hey, Samsung, how about we give you a perfect excuse to raise prices, the company's not going to look a gift horse in the mouth. So while those tariffs brought in an estimated $82 million annually for the U.S. Treasury, they wound up costing American consumers an extra $1.5 billion a year to wash and dry our clothes. And the thing about starting a trade war is that other countries tend to fight back. So in 2019, American agricultural exports to China cratered as China slapped its own tariffs on American exports and shifted to buying wheat from Canada and soybeans from Brazil. The U.S. government wound up handing out $28 billion to farmers to cover their losses in this easy-to-win trade war. And the tariffs didn't even lower the U.S.-China trade deficit, which climbed from $375 billion in 2017 to $418 billion in 2018. All of which is to say that Trump can promise all he wants that he'll easily bring back U.S. jobs by piling tariffs on China, but his own track record says otherwise. It's hard to know whether Trump really does intend to impose across-the-board tariffs on day one of his presidency, because so often what he means is that he's going to threaten to do something totally crazy and destructive, effectively flipping the board in the middle of the game, in hopes that whoever's on the other side will blink rather than find out if this madman really does intend to go nuclear. If he does intend to impose massive tariffs, he'll have IEEPA, the Trade Expansion Act, and several other congressional delegations of legal authority to rely on. Those laws were intended for use in wartime or actual emergencies, and not as a bargaining chip to threaten other countries into changing the terms of deals we've already negotiated. But the language in the statutes is vague enough to give Trump legal cover to do more or less whatever he wants when it comes to tariffs. The National Retail Federation is warning that if Trump really does levy massive tariffs on China, it will raise the price of consumer goods by between $46 and $78 billion a year. When asked about the tariffs in an earnings call in October, the CEO of Black & Decker, Donald Allen Jr., said that the company had been planning for this possibility since the spring, and coming out of the gate, there will be price increases associated with tariffs that we put into the market.
How does anyone feel knowing that for the entirety of this year, specifically, because yes, it was brought up several other fucking years, the gimmick has been, hey, we hate that shit is expensive. We hate it. We don't like it. How does one feel knowing that there's a guy whose gimmick was to tell y'all, or at least have other people tell y'all, that that's not really going to be the case with me? And then it ends up being the goddamn fuck me.
AutoZone CEO Philip Daniele said in
I want a car. I don't want to fucking pay 30,000 of my fucking yen to a fucking entity, or at least 40,000. I just want a cool, nice used car that I could fucking touch slowly.
September, we know what the tariffs will be. We generally raise prices ahead of that. Neither executive contemplates shifting production to the U.S., as Trump has promised his supporters would happen. As the Black & Decker CEO told shareholders, onshoring to America is not cost-effective, and there's questions about whether we even have the labor to actually do that in this country. Both CEOs agreed that they were much more likely to relocate from China to other countries in Asia or potentially to Mexico if Trump starts another trade war with China. All of which may very well hurt China, but it will do nothing to bring down costs for American consumers or create manufacturing jobs here or increase government revenue. And in fact, the Tax Policy Center calculates that if Trump really does impose a 10% across-the-board tariff and a 60% tariff on China, it would lower the average after-tax incomes of U.S. households in 2025 by about $1,800 a year. So yes, legally speaking, Trump can enact any tariff he wants to at any time for any reason against any country. All he has to do is shout, "It's an emergency." But whether he should is another matter entirely.
Well, I'm actually happy to report that Trump's business advisors advised him against the tariffs, and he's listening to them and is backing down.
No, he's not. You fucking liar. Stop doing it. This is your second time doing that to me while I'm watching one of your fucking videos. Cut that out.
No, I'm just kidding. Trump recently announced on Twitter that he is doubling down on tariffs and stated that he's going to issue a blanket 25% tariff on all imports coming in from Canada and Mexico, as well as institute an additional 10% tariff on all goods coming in from China. For drugs, I guess. It doesn't really make all that much sense. So if Trump does what he says, I guess we're completely tearing up the USMCA and basically every other trade agreement that we have. Now, that might be a terrible idea, but the one thing you should definitely do is subscribe to today's sponsor, Nebula.
No! I will not do such a thing. I will instead subscribe to me, because me is me, you know? What a good way to fucking learn. I feel like my country's getting dumber based on circumstances that are not my fault. It's based upon people who wanted to believe. And you know what? Believing is only part of the battle. You have to be able to fucking continue and do research and understand. If I had to pick one, if had to pick one, would take Spider-Man 2 combo or Batman Arkham combo, Spider-Man 2. My bias is fucking showing. I just want you all to know that. But it's time. It's time. It's time to make good on what I've kept delaying for X amount of fucking days. Where's the fucking game? Let's get this shit started. Where's it? Oh, there it is. Is there not a PS5 version of this fucking game? Playable on a PS4. I don't give a fuck. Is there not a PS5 version of this fucking game? I distinctly don't align with this level of thinking. Detroit Become Human. How the fuck is there an Until Dawn version? Kill me softly. Upgrade to PlayStation Plus to stream this game and oh, I don't need that. I already got it. Time to But for all my YouTube people, this is goodbye. Fuck you. You're cheap. All the Twitch people paid for this experience. No, they didn't. I just specifically, when I want to just be game heavy, I go on fucking Twitch and just enjoy my life for X amount of hours. And that's what I'm going to go do.